How's it going, everyone? And welcome to a odd episode of No Excuses, where normally we would end the year with Rantathon if it's a Rantathon year, but this year, due to scheduling and not being able to do Rantathon this week because Ball's going on a trip, and we weren't real sure about me and Fern weren't real sure about our schedules. We did it last week.
Yeah, episode 560. So we are still ending the year on a tidy number.
Yeah, I think it's five. No, it should be. This should be 600.
I think you're a year out.
Maybe. We'll have to check. I don't even know anymore.
Yeah.
Math am hard.
Math am hard. So yeah. We are just going to faff about this week and talk about some news because, oh yeah, stuff is on fire this week. It's great.
A few things to laugh at this week, but we are your favorite show hosts are still
Venurian.
And Vorticel, and we're here to bring you the latest news and commentary on the video games industry for the week, such as it was. Yes, indeed. If you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by... Pardon me, throat's a bit iffy still. If you'd like to get involved with the show, you can do so by sending us email at noexcusesvtw@gmail.com. You can follow us on the Twitter at noexcusesvtw. You can join us in the Discord server, the best place to go to chat with the show hosts and other show listeners. And you can get that by clicking on the link provided in the show description underneath underneath the YouTube archive. Yeah, in the description. Yeah,
Well,
in that place.
This is going to be a day for words.
Yeah, I'm sort of at the absolute nadir of my energy for the year. I'm barely hanging on at this point. I need this holiday badly.
Yeah.
Hopefully, it will actually be a holiday. That would be nice.
Just drop the work phone off a ravine or something on the way over there and don't think about it.
just turn it off.
Just forget to charge it.
You are out of service range.
Yes.
The thing is that they have my regular phone number as well, so they'll just go to that instead.
Damn.
They'll get the answering machine because you're not in town.
So, yeah.
Well, just because I'm not going to a city doesn't mean there's no cell phone coverage.
Welcome to my world. If you're with Vodafone, good luck to you.
Oh, I still have Baja bars set up on Red Mage. Not Baja bars. I have Eureka bars.
Yeah.
I might need to fix that.
So yeah, we're just going to do a bit of Palace of the Dead this time, and just to put a few levels into my, not even White Mage at this point, Conjurer.
Yeah.
I got no buttons to press.
Spoiler alert, when you become White Mage, you still will not have buttons to press.
Yeah, don't healers start only getting buttons around level 60 or so now?
You'll get buttons in air quotes. They ain't gonna do a whole lot, though.
Yeah. I can heal! Yeah. There you go.
You just cure one me.
Yes. Because that's
Don't
all
you
I
have Cure
got.
2 by now? You don't have Cure 2?
Nope.
He's the conjurer.
I'm the
I
Conjurer.
thought Conjurers... I guess maybe you don't get that unless you're a White Mage.
Yeah, you get it at the I think it's level 26, but it doesn't actually activate until you get White Mage. There's a few classes that get weird stuff like that.
I have been told.
You have been towed. Oh, I don't need to walk around the edge, I suppose.
They told you.
Yeah, so we'll dive straight into weeks, and this week it's been a okay week, I guess. A lot of running around and getting everything organised for Christmas. Christmas. Yeah, Christmas dinner with my family gets interesting. Yeah, if we go through a Christmas dinner without somebody having gravy fly out their nose, then we've done it wrong.
Oh, that would be downright tame by my standards.
Yeah. Just try to make each other laugh. What's with all the toads? So yeah, been gearing up for that. Unfortunately, I don't actually get a work Christmas holidays as such. Since
I'm going to risk taking one, but yeah, I really shouldn't be
just do it.
off either.
I have to. I will die if I don't. It has been 3 years since I had a holiday.
Yeah, you've gotta. But yeah, if you can get away with it, definitely do it. Even if it's just for a few days or for a week. But unfortunately, the airports don't close, so neither can we. Though we are running only a limited service.
What do you mean limited service?
We're only going to be servicing bus, train, airports.
Ah, I see. So you're running a shuttle service.
Basically, yeah. Yeah, you don't want the local drugs to bother us on Christmas, because, good lord, you people. But, yeah, anyway, aside from that, for gaming, I did... I sunk in, because it was cheap, I grabbed the Matchless Kung Fu and played a bit of that. Yeah.
That looks so awful. Why did you do that?
I don't know. I'm a sucker for that kind of game. And when I started playing it and doing things in the game, like, it's not bad. And there's a lot to enjoy in there. It's very rough because I think it's only being made by one person. But ultimately, I just...
Awful.
A while into it is like, why... I should be playing Kenshi. So I went and played Kenshi.
You can sometimes
You
get
got
those.
peeled.
Yeah.
You got banana peeled. Your banana got peeled.
Yeah, phrasing. Yuck, no. So yeah, Matchless Kung Fu, there's a lot to enjoy. The combat system is completely obtuse, though. It is a deck-based rock, paper, scissors kind of dealy. Where you have your weakness... I'm just going to call it the weakness arse, because it's two loops that converge on a single point, so it looks like a butt. But because it's all deck-based, you can completely pull a hand where you're just not able to do anything good. So, yeah. That said, because it is full-on wuxia, everything does kung fu. Literally everything. I haven't run into any kung fu doing inanimate objects yet, but it's going to probably happen. But the kung fu horse is definitely something worth witnessing.
I see.
I see.
That's a
What,
lie. I don't see it all. Yes, you did.
Did I spine shatter onto a
Yes,
chest?
you did. So yeah, it's fine, I guess. You only control one character and you just kind of run around, do quests, and basically do whatever you feel like in a world that you build as you go away, which is kind of a neat mechanic. We are hitting every trap. You're not supposed to hit the traps. Stop it.
Well, that one was a chest that we didn't have to open, but I opened it anyway.
And what did we learn?
I'm gonna open it again anyway.
Okay, yeah, fair. So, yeah, the thing is because it's only being made by one person, it's very, very rough. And in some places, they've had the translation done properly. In other places, they've done machine translations, and oh boy, the differences. You notice it.
Sometimes with those single-person made games, they can still be okay. You had, like, Iconoclast was like that, and that was good.
Yeah.
But it's really... hit and miss.
Yes. But ultimately, I was enjoying it, but then I went and said, no, I could go and enjoy Kenshi more. So I went and jumped in the wasteland and, tried to sell people's, these spare human parts I just found laying around.
They're peeled bananas.
Yes.
I don't know if I would call what you do in Kenshi enjoyment.
It's a way of inflicting misery upon other people. Until the game decides, you know what, no, here's this beak thing. The monster is actually called a beak thing. It's kind of a sauropod with a vulture head. And those things have no chill. So yeah, it's a good time just to fart ass around in the wasteland and more or less write your own story. Usually a miserable one. Yeah, the world of Kenshi is not kind. I managed to get myself kicked out of a major faction city. That was nice. Yeah, it's sort of a random event you can have happen in one of those cities. It's like a big ass noble just bumps into you and demands you lick his boots in apology, and you can just say no, which is fine.
This is my 4th code so far.
Stop. Yeah, I mean that's fine, but you've got to be prepared to fight the entire city if you do that. Anyway, that's basically my week. I've dabbled a little bit on the new Pokemon expansion because I'm going to.
It's a Pokemon expansion.
Yeah, the newest and I think final one for Violet and Sapphire, Violet and Scarlet. There you go.
Nobody seems to have been talking about it. I haven't heard anything.
No, it's kind of just there. I think what is, I think, refreshing though is they're fully expecting you to have a fully decked out team by this point in the game because, I mean, it's late end game. So rather than just boosting numbers now, they've made the AI actually smart, or at least less shit. So it will actually put together a few combos and actual strategies rather than just throwing out abilities willy-nilly like they do tend to sometimes.
Like, it may aim for your weakness, maybe, if it's feeling like it.
More than that, they actually use held items and will set up traps and combos. So
they actually figured out how weather works?
Yes, they have. Which is really fun when the AI can suddenly nail you in the face with an instant cast solar beam. Because that's always great. But beyond that, it's like, yeah, it's just more.
Yeah, when they moved away from Mega Evolution and then Fish and Chips came out, I was just like, yeah, I'm out.
Yeah. The new system, the terrestrial, it has a dumb name, but it has kind of grown on me because of it's just a very simple system. All you do is change their primary type and give them double stab.
Yeah, Mega Evolution was way cooler.
Yeah, it's cooler, but this system works. It's not their worst gimmick. It looks dumb by making everything wear ginormous hats and turn sparkly. And it's got a dumb, hard to pronounce name. But it's fine.
Fish and Chips was the thing that really sealed the deal, though. That Pika Man game was so bad with its fattening mechanic that I will not go back to Pika Man until they do something that makes me go, yeah, okay, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah. As much as there is good in Scarlet and Violet, there's also a lot of bad. And a lot of the bad is more along the technical aspects of things than anything else. Like, there is no reason why your draw distance is so bad. There's no reason why the frame rate should drop here. It's no good saying that the Switch can't handle this technology because Xenoblade Chronicles 3 exists. And it can run that fine.
I guess it's a case of, like, they no longer get the benefit of the doubt just because they're Pokemon.
Yeah,
like,
they did for the
longest time. They have to prove themselves like everybody else.
Yeah, and I know they are losing sales over it, because Fish and Chips was a deal breaker for more people than just me.
Oh, it was a deal breaker for a lot of people, but...
like, that was the last straw with Pika Man and their technical bullcrap.
Yeah. Like, Sun and Moon kind of turned people off because they moved away from the traditional gym system. Which, really, they didn't, because it was just gyms wearing a different hat, but still.
Yeah, but they also got rid of a mechanic that people really liked for that one generation.
Yeah.
And replaced it with just push button for bigger damage.
And then came the re-release versions where, hang on, here's Megas again. So you can have your Megas in Sumo. But, yeah, that's the thing with Pokemon lately. It's been kind of 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. Maybe one sideways, but
Yeah, for the modern Pikaman games, they peaked at X and Y,
X and Y was so good.
and then after that, it's just been, as far as I'm concerned, downhill all the way.
Yeah, we're actually, I think, due for the mid-season re-release of Black and White. So, I hope you're feeling old. Black and White, at least.
I was like thinking, what, the Molyneux game? What are we talking about?
I wish. But no, Pokemon Black and White, which, to be fair, are still the strongest story-wise, in the fact that they have a story. So yeah, we'll see. But I did see one headline briefly that says we're going back to Kanto again because apparently everyone wants to go back to Kanto again. So I don't know. Unfortunately, haven't done a whole lot of anime this week. I just kept caught up on Undead Unluck, which is continuing to be incredibly strange. And I'm really wondering how this world actually functions now. Take him over here. Ow. Since, yeah, it's a world that relies on the addition and subtraction and negation of various natural laws, and as of the last episode anyway, they added a new law, and that law was galaxy. So now Earth actually exists in a galaxy, which apparently it didn't before.
What? You're going to need to explain more carefully than that, I think.
Yeah.
Because
well, it was
I'm not sure I understand.
It's the first time they really showed the night sky before this point, and it was just completely black.
Well, so where was the Earth?
Yeah.
Where was it located?
Which makes me wonder, like, because of the way this whole quest system in the universe works, like every time they fail their quest, they get a punishment, and sometimes that's the addition of a new law. And laws are simple things, like stuff we generally take for granted, like, gravity. Or eating. Or things like that. So, it's a very, very strange universe. They do...
Guess what, Fern?
What did you do? Oh, why? So yeah, they also managed to negate one law, which was the law of language. So that was at least interesting.
I don't understand. I like fundamental.
Yeah. So negate the language, everyone just speaks English now, except they're speaking Japanese.
So inverse Tower of Babel.
Basically, yeah. Except for the negators who not only aren't necessarily affected by these law changes, they can still remember them, because general public doesn't remember them. So now you have this one guy in the world who can speak Chinese.
So they don't have to eat food?
They do. That law hasn't been negated.
What happens? I don't
Yeah,
understand.
it's a very, very strange universe.
Do people have to go to the bathroom?
I assume the law of poop does exist, yes.
Who is imposing these laws?
A book. An evil book that they found in a hole.
So there were no laws before they dug the book up?
Apparently no.
So what existed then?
Yeah. I think...
You're thinking too hard about the metaphysics that get involved.
Yeah, just... Best you... Oh, that was close. Best we don't, because it's a very, very strange story. I'm wondering how much the anime is skipping over, or abbreviating, just for the sake of brevity. Means, yeah, maybe the manga might be an interesting, very, very confusing read.
The Rage Coffer.
Can't. It's knock down.
Right, this is not back. Knock back people. It would be, wouldn't it?
We could save it for the next floor.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to leave my week at that. I actually got to play some video this week.
Well, that has got way too many. Oh, no.
Oh, what do?
Huh?
What'd you do this week?
Is that you're like totally over?
I'm totally over. I
Well,
didn't do a whole lot.
I didn't do a week last week because we were doing Rantathon. So I'll start with last week. So last week, I first of all finished Fate Samurai Remnant first playthrough. There are, as I understand it, 4 endings depending. Although I only saw 2 of the decision branches, so I don't know how I get. I only saw 2 possible decisions. So I think on the second playthrough you get additional ones. So the way it seems like it's mapped out is that there are 2 key decisions that you can make, and one of them is sort of like before the last act, where you can choose whether or not you're going to prioritize saving Aya Hirano's character. What's her name? I can't remember. She's Dutch, I think.
I don't know any Dutch heroes really.
No. Like she's the master.
Oh, okay.
Name's sort of on the tip of my tongue, but I can't quite get it out. At any rate, she ends up. She's got a real hard case of a servant who ends up deciding that he's just going to run rampage across Edo because he can, and so you've got an option of whether you're going to try and end the ritual and ignore the fact that he's basically running riot and hope that that somebody can deal with that situation, or you can chase after him and stop him first, and then lose the opportunity to steal a march on the mastermind or whoever the mastermind seems to be in that particular story route. But apparently, there's another decision point that opens up later where you can choose whether to destroy the Grail or to use the Grail, and then of course there's the joke ending where you pledge your loyalty to Gilgamesh to become his vassal, and then you go on adventures conquering the world.
Doesn't sound so bad. Well, unless you want condescendent constantly.
Zashu.
There's too much Zashu in that ending, I think.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't like Archer Gilgamesh. This is Ruler Gilgamesh. So he's got a slightly different character. He's more like Caster Gilgamesh than he is like Archer Gilgamesh, but I'd say he's probably partway between the two.
Okay.
Still too high a chance for Zashu.
There's definitely going to be a lot of Zashu. Zashu.
He has
like basically
ego to lug around.
Every interaction you have with him involves him calling you Zashu multiple times and just laughing, belly laughs at you constantly.
I mean, it is Gilgamesh still.
I'm just thinking of the stupid frog.
But he's basically not involving himself in the Grail War at all. He's sort of standing on the sidelines. Mainly, he seems to sell candy, although his store seems to stock an awful lot of different things.
Is it all gold?
It's artisanal candy sculpted to look like him.
I mean, of course it is.
But he refers to himself as a textiles wholesaler.
Is there literally any textiles at all in his shop?
There appear to be, but you never see him selling any or dealing in any.
Okay. They're just there for decoration.
But yeah, basically he's a plot device. When there's basically like because the overseer of the war is corrupt, as they always are in Type Moon stories. But the overseer is corrupt in a more sort of direct way than Kirei was. Like Kirei was at least masquerading as though he was a proper supervisor.
Up until he wasn't.
But in this case, nobody really knows what's going on, and the supervisor's just like straight up one of the participants.
Oh.
Because he set things up that way. But because he's basically he's assembling the Grail ritual, which is called the Waxing Moon ritual, in his version of it, based on sort of basically this. It's not spelled out explicitly, but the description is kind of like he managed to summon a caster, basically, a particular caster with clairvoyance, and he used clairvoyance to get the information required to construct a Holy Grail war. So, yeah, but because he's super corrupt, basically, there's no linchpin to the war where when you've got a clueless protagonist, they can go and say, look, what's actually going on here? Where am I supposed to go? There's nobody who's above manipulation or whatever. So basically Gilgamesh serves that role when there's basically no dangling story thread known to the protagonist to grab onto. They basically go and do chores for Gilgamesh until he decides to help them out. It's pretty much the way that it ends up going, which doesn't happen too many times. They don't abuse this, but he is sort of serves as a dynamo to get the plot moving when the protagonists have sort of been left out of goings on, because they are, much like in most such stories, the main character is sort of an unplanned participant who is a sort of a wild card in the ritual. So basically nobody has any interest in helping them out. Oh right, Dorothea, that's her name. The girl who has assassin and is the Dutch participant from the clock tower. But yeah, so you've got your official participants both from locally and from outside Japan, and then you've got a guy from China, you've got the girl from the clock tower, and you've got mostly locals. But the main character is, of course, the wild card who has just by chance been selected as a master and is participating. But at any rate, so I've completed the first playthrough of the option where by default in the first playthrough you destroy the Grail, so that's the primary choice made for you, it seems, because I didn't have a decision point that I could perceive. And I chose the route of saving Dorothea and helping her stop Assassin before Assassin wrecked the city, which involves leaving the mastermind unattended, basically. Which turns out not to go as well for the mastermind as you might think in that scenario. But yeah, at any rate, so
again,
I'm good at this. Good at this game. I don't know how much the different endings differ from each other. I don't know if it's just sort of like the dialogue changes and the sort of the intentions and purpose changes, or whether events are actually different, because in the route that I chose, the Master of Caster just sort of disappears from the plot without affecting it. Like, they sort of get removed from play.
Okay.
And basically, Caster then forms another contract with a master who has lost their servant, and the story plays out differently. And the central sort of antagonist in a martial sense loses control of their servant, and that servant becomes the first mate. Rather than numbering them, I'll just say that they become a major antagonist, because this story ends more times than Return of the King. Every time you think you're about to close the deal, like you at the end of like Act 4, you think, oh, okay, so the last guy left is the mastermind, we'll just go fight him. And then, you know, Assassin runs amok, so I went to stop Assassin, and then, oh, well, suddenly somebody else is taking place as the primary protagonist, so I go to fight them, I defeat them, and then their servant decides, yeah, I'm not really interested anymore in doing what you want to do, because, yeah, reasons. And they summon a giant cow or something.
What?
Something
Yeah.
Google-ana.
It's not Google-ana, but it's very evocative of Google-ana. But yeah, and then you say, oh well, we've got this ridiculously powerful entity now, we've got to bring that down and then stop the servant, and then you're like, oh, okay, we've defeated the servant who's clearly the most dangerous person on the field, right? Not quite. Then you end up having to fight Caster, the Caster's master, and then when you beat them, Caster basically manages to summon this ancient god thing, which you then have to fight, and so on. Basically, every time you think you've won, you haven't won. You've got another boss to fight. The biggest problem is the one of which everybody is already aware. The health bars are just too long. Like, it took me quite a long time to beat the final boss. And the main reason it took quite a long time to beat the final boss is that, A, the final boss can essentially one-shot you if you do anything even slightly wrong. And number two, it just takes forever to kill him. And that's sort of the issue. That you just have to fight him for a very long time, giving him lots of opportunities to one-shot you, so you have to reset the fight. So it's kind of a frustrating difficulty model, really. There's not really, you don't really feel like it's very fair, because there are situations that I was unable to figure out how to solve for the longest time, and it turned out that I had to essentially use game mechanics in a fashion that doesn't seem intended in order to avoid the situation. Because basically, when the final boss lines up to do his functionally instant kill hit, I don't know if there's a way to break out of it after it starts landing. You're supposed to interrupt it before it goes off. But if you should happen to need to interrupt this, but Saber is currently animation locked, you can't. So you just die, and you aren't in control of Saber. So if he animation locks himself, then you just die. But it turns out that you can avoid this simply by, well, basically the way that you seem to avoid this is you don't use your ability to control Saber for offensive purposes, which is the normal thing that you would do. Because controlling your servant directly allows you to do a ton of damage really, really fast. It's usually what you use to get a lot of damage into a shell gauge or a health bar when you've got a prime opportunity to do it. But instead of doing that, you basically take control over your servant because you have invincibility in that window where you're doing that. So you've got to use the animation as a defensive, essentially, rather than for its intended purpose, because otherwise you'll just die. Because you can always take control of your servant even if the animation locked. So yeah, it seems like a really dumb design. Maybe there's some way that you can deal with the situation that I couldn't figure out, but that was what I ended up doing in the end, is I just held off using that ability to control a servant directly until such time as I got stuck in a position where I needed to interrupt something urgently and I couldn't because my servant was busy doing whatever it is that he does. So yeah, overall the whole experience was very, very Type Moon. It was very sort of classic Fate Stay Night type of story, and it was just generally done quite well. Lots of unanswered questions and characters that sort of exit stage left for no clear reason. But then maybe that will get resolved in the other routes or in the DLC that they've said that they're going to release, because they did claim that they were going to release a bunch of story-related DLCs during the course of their season pass that I didn't buy because I don't approve of buying season passes. So yeah, like Lancer's master in the route that I picked, Lancer's master gets like a super underwhelming end. Like they show up at the 11th hour to try and steal a march on you, taking control of the Grail, and it basically the main character's sort of on a high after like a hyper intense fight and cuts him down in one stroke, basically.
Oh.
Like he enters and dies in one hit, and then nobody thinks about him ever again. That's his lot in life. So yeah, it's an incredibly underwhelming end for him. But I gather that he's in the other route. He's much more like a major antagonist, rather than just sort of like an annoyance throughout the plot, who then gets ushered off like crook coming in from off stage to yank him off the stage type of thing. Yeah, so I'm sort of curious as to what will happen in the other route. I did start up a second playthrough, but I haven't made much progress in it yet because I haven't had time, and gonna have to trawl through a lot of the game again to try and find some of the stuff that I missed because I missed quite a few things. But yeah, it was overall I enjoyed it. The biggest flaw in the game is that the combat pacing is really wonky. There's a lot of situations where fights just drag on with a lot of time wasting. Like, most bosses seem to have at least one ability that just takes up time.
Okay.
Like
level 30.
Once you... Congratulations. Once you know what it looks like, you basically just have to stand somewhere and wait for it to be over, or just run away in a straight line from it, or whatever. It's not like particularly complicated to deal with, but they all seem to have one. But and the biggest problem with that is it draws out the fight length, which, considering how long the fights are, means that it's gonna take even longer to do a repeat run when you accidentally screw up and get yourself jibbed. So yeah, I don't think it was good for the pacing at all. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. They didn't really know what they were doing when they put this together. They normally make Muso games, so I think it's a pretty darn decent first attempt, all told. But yeah, I liked it, and I enjoyed the final battle. It was sort of interesting. Like, it was interesting seeing the way the final thing played out and what was being hinted at for the longest time. I was right in the end, to a certain extent, that Ryder was Mama Raiko, but she's not quite the one that we're all familiar with. She's a little bit different. And that actually, the thing that's weakest about that particular plot arc, though, is that if you did not do the Onigashima event in FGO, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, there's a lot of context missing. It does make just enough sense for the story to work, but there's a lot more nuance to it that you never see, because it happens in another game.
Yeah.
But the backstory for Raiko mainly exists in Onigashima.
Yeah, it doesn't really give her story or anything like that, or why she's incarnated a different way.
Well, I mean, that you can infer that with the background knowledge from FGO, but the story is sort of like more straightforward. Like, they'll just tell you, oh well, I said that I was Minamoto no Raiko, but actually, etc., etc. Oh. And so you get like the bare facts. But what makes those bare facts actually make contextual sense is something that's from FGO's background that you get given there for Raiko, and like, oh, what's going on here? Like, you get the Cliff's Notes version of what her story is, rather than the sort of exploratory version that you get in FGO. So but the thing is that this is just sort of an unavoidable issue in a very sprawling IP. Like, nobody is going to really understand why Gilgamesh is entertaining if they aren't familiar with Gilgamesh already.
Yeah.
Like, he's just going to be this kind of weird guy who's kind of rude all the time.
Yeah.
Who says Zeshu all the time.
Just says Zeshu.
Yeah, it's like, well, what's this guy? Why does he keep saying that word?
He's the Zeshu guy.
A lot of things are very sort of contextual, and there's a lot of running franchise jokes, like Saber being obsessed with eating huge amounts of food wherever he gets the opportunity. Like, this just seems to be a common Saber trait, I guess.
Yeah, they're kind of reaching a point where they're up to, over 1,000 characters now?
Remember to grab that chest that has the rage in it back there.
I didn't know there was one. I don't know where it is. Oh, got it.
Which way are we going?
But, yeah, I don't know exactly how many characters there are. I don't know that there's quite 1,000 because there's so many double ups.
Yeah.
But I think there's like 700 servants. Ari was looking at the list a while back. I think there was something like 700 of them. Or was it 400? I don't know. There was some hundreds. Many
It's,
hundreds
I
of them.
think it's like exactly 400 servants in FGO.
Yeah.
That,
Those are the
that
only ones that are
available
in
the
FGO.
gacha.
Yeah, and if FGO is only the FGO characters, there's a lot in there like Caldegross and that aren't
Archimedes in there yet?
FGO yet. Archimedes is not in there.
Yeah.
And I expect Archimedes is perfectly happy with that because there is no way that he would want to share a building with Elizabeth again. That is easily my favourite part in Extella Link, is where Liz is like, oh yeah, I totally know this guy who can help us figure this out. And she just sort of calls on Archimedes without warning, and you can just tell that he loathes being in the same room as her with every particle of his being.
Yeah.
And she's completely oblivious to the fact.
Considering he spent a good chunk of the of Extella being the bad guy.
It's very, very unclear what the connection is between Extella and Extella Link.
Yeah.
It has been said by word of God, as it were, that they are not the same universe, but they are very sort of closely related timelines. Things went differently, though.
It's probably going to get the... I think it just gets the same response that a lot of fans use for it, but it's just kind of shrug and say Mooncell.
Yeah,
it's like the explanation from LT Blood, where it happened during the unreleased Sachin route.
Yeah.
it's awfully convenient.
Which is just a, big old shrug.
Yeah, it's like, it's in the ballpark of some of the other timelines, all the characters are there, but
Stuff happened.
but we pick a different heroine that never actually got a route as the canon route.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so yeah. There's a lot of sort of lore in jokes, but it's nice seeing a bunch of new characters that are being introduced. I'm sure that they will all end up in the gacha eventually if Geo keeps running. But it's nice that they didn't just rest on their laurels and use exclusively characters they already had in the stable.
Yeah.
There's quite a few new ones. In fact, there are very few straight up repeats. Like Kukulin is a straight up repeat,
Because
and
he's
Arjuna
required
is
to
a
be there
straight
by
up
law.
repeat. Yeah, and all he does is his usual thing, which is to sort of run around being powerful but vaguely ineffectual.
And possibly dying, depending on your route.
And Cersei is there, but other than that, most of them are new, I think. I'm just trying to call them to mind at the moment. They're new in one way or another. Samson is new, yeah.
Yeah.
And he has a lot of hair.
Cersei and Piggy, though.
Yes, I ended up using Cersei quite a lot.
Piggies!
She's not awesome by any stretch of the imagination, but she's extremely good in certain narrow circumstances which are difficult to deal with. And like, if you've got a lot of enemies that you just need to pin down and wipe out, and you don't have Saber with you to like group them, because there are situations where you don't have Saber available, depending on what you choose to do during the tactics sections. If you've got a lot of enemies around, doing joint attacks with your servant is a good way to group them, since by default it will group all of the enemies in the immediate area in front of you and do the attack animation when you trigger those sort of team attacks. And so that's an extremely good way for grouping up loose groups of enemies. If you don't really have that available, then Cersei is very good at just like roasting large numbers of guys with her lightning spells. And the other thing is that her ability to interrupt enemy abilities doesn't work on everybody. Sometimes it just whiffs. Sometimes it interrupts but doesn't do what it's supposed to. And sometimes it turns them into a pig and you can just wail on them.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Zashu is not immune to Pigify.
Yeah, without which I probably wouldn't have managed to make it through the Gilgamesh fight. Because it turns out you can just turn him into a pig and wail on him.
Cast spell, hope for pig. It is what she do, I suppose.
Yeah. You do spend a certain amount of the game as a pig as well, after meeting her.
Of course you do.
Because she just decides that she would like to have you as her piggy.
Because It's what she do.
because that is what Cersei do.
Except in Titan Quest, where she just spends a whole bunch of time being incredibly salty for absolutely no reason.
But yeah,
I haven't made it that far in Titan Quest.
In my last playthrough, I made it that far.
I think it's hard not to find Cersei endearing. Like, ultimately, like she's got a distorted sense of right and wrong because most of the sort of like really ancient Greek mythological characters that have like divine heritage tend to have a slightly distorted sense of morals.
Yep.
But she's mainly just lonely.
She did spend basically all her life alone on an island.
Yeah, like there's she was like obviously sees it as having been, while she always acts like she was annoyed about it, she obviously sees it as a bright spot, the time that she spent teaching Medea. But the ultimately she's just lonely, and that's why that's basically behind a lot of the motivation behind turning people into pigs, is that like they'll just try and leave her otherwise.
Yeah.
So she turns them into pigs. But yeah, she's quite a stalwart ally once you show her a bit of kindness and just sort of spend some time hanging out with her, and she will repay that. But not before she has turned you into a pig. Much to Saber's great entertainment. But yeah, I overall enjoyed the game, and I would definitely recommend it to anybody who is a fan of Fate. If you are not a fan of Fate, it's a harder recommend simply because the game, in a lot of ways, feels kind of experimental.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like, oh well, we've got this skill set, except the skill set is used to make Muso games, and now we're trying to make an adventure action game, and we don't really know how. So we're going to basically use Muso arenas as town maps.
Yeah.
And try and do a thing. And it sort of kind of works and kind of doesn't, but because it's experimental and kind of works and kind of doesn't, it does sort of lend it an almost kind of a unique charm. Like this, it doesn't quite feel like other games because it's been sort of like bolted on to an inappropriate engine in a way. So it does have a sort of a unique identity of its own that makes it feel fresh, even though it's not really all that fresh.
Yep.
But yeah, and it's the characters are all generally written quite well, and they're mostly quite likable. Even the ones who are ostensibly your enemies, you can sort of see where they're coming from, more or less. Like nobody is really out there just for the evils, except maybe one of the antagonists near the end, not quite at the end, but near the end, is sort of like, wow, I mean, I get the impression that you just want to destroy everything.
Yeah,
And that you think that would be good if everything was destroyed because it deserves to be. Is their sort of just.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big appeals of Fate, is there's very few characters that are just there as villains for no reason. And the ones that are there for no reason still at least have an explanation.
Yeah, that, like the I didn't get any real exploration into the backstory of Lance's master, or Lancer herself in for that matter, but it's sort of implied that he's basically screwed up something vicious because he was essentially the only person to survive the Shimabara rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
And so he saw everybody he knew, everybody he cared about, brutally murdered and burned alive, and he barely survived. And like he's got kind of a chip on his shoulder over it.
That's kind of understandable, yes.
But you don't really get much more about it than that, other than he's like really, really, really angry. But, they always say that a master will summon a servant that is in some way appropriate to them. And this character summons Jeanne d'Arc.
Which version?
A new one that we've never seen before. Halfway between being the alter and being the original. Like she is the original. She is not Jeanne Alter, because Jeanne Alter is sort of like an artificial version of Jeanne created by Guy.
Mm-hmm.
But she's also not the original Jeanne, because she's incredibly she's still pious, but she's incredibly sort of downbeat and dour.
Yeah, like
Not in an embittered way, but in a like everything makes me feel sorrowful kind of way.
yeah, Ruler John or Classic John is kind of the epitome of the idealized saint, but
Well, Summer Jean maybe not so much.
some John less so. But,
Summer Jean is the best Jean because she has dolphins.
well, yes,
And a
does.
whale.
And she slaps me with.
Yes, but she's kind of obsessed with being an elder sister.
I wasn't paying
But
attention.
she has dolphins, so it's gay.
Yeah, so this
She has a whale.
this John sounds more like kind of the true John, or at least more like what she actually was like.
Yeah, she's not as optimistic. She's kind of more. She's got more sort of a kicked dog type of personality.
Mhm.
Like she's clearly really wants to be a supportive voice in her master's life to try and get him to be a little bit less turned in on his own rage, but she doesn't have the force of personality to actually press the issue the way her ruler self would.
Mhm.
She's more sort of a shrinking violet. But yeah, so she's an interesting character. I didn't see much exploration of her. Maybe I will if I choose the other route next time, which I think makes her more important to the story. But yeah, so yeah, the characters all have their things. Even like the sort of generic Clock Tower Margus, Dorothea, it also sort of becomes endearing in her own way. She's very much the classic Margus character. Like she's focused on like getting the job done, but she's still like she's the heir apparent. She's sort of like the Tosaka Rin of the story in that she's very young, but she's the heir to her line and has everything to prove because of it. So she's got a lot of pride because, unlike Rin, she did grow up at the Clock Tower, like is surrounded by that environment of backstabbing Margus politics and that sort of thing. But she's not so mature that she isn't given to sort of like flights of impulse, even though she would very much like to be. She would like to think of herself that way, but she's not. And she ends up sort of hoisted on her own petard through no fault of her own, really, and that her sort of desire to prove herself means that she got a servant who is competitive for its own sake, kind of thing. And this ends up becoming a huge problem because the servant just decides that, oh well, I mean, like late in the story, it's like, oh well, this is my opportunity to run amok, so I'm just going to run amok, and you can prove yourself by trying to stop me from running amok. And yeah, so it ends up where she's sort of weirdly screwed over from the outset by just her personality. And then, oh well, she got a servant who's just a little bit too much like her, sort of thing. But yeah, so yeah, the character writing is surprisingly good. Every part of the game, in fact, was better than I expected it to be. I expected it to be very lazily put together, or like somewhere more along the lines of Extella, where the particularly the first Extella, the writing was, aside from the Nero wank, which happens an awful lot in certain routes, the writing was actually extremely good. The writing was actually extremely good in Extella for the overarching story being told. But the execution on the gameplay and the meshing of those two things together was incredibly weak. So it was like skewed really heavily in the direction of story. This one is way less skewed. There's much more of a story gameplay balance, and the story is told very competently and in a very orderly fashion without too much sort of like arbitrary twists and mysteries.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that was really hard for me on playing Extella. Is like, yeah, the gameplay was, I mean, it was competent, it was Musu, but the story was really bogged down, especially whenever Nero turned up, because suddenly everything was Nero.
Yeah, it's like whenever Nero appears on screen, like I hear like the background music that occurs every time Excalibur from Soul Eater appears on screen.
Yes.
It's like you've just got this unspeakably arrogant spotlight stealer who thinks everything is about them, and unfortunately they are ridiculously powerful, so everything ends up being about them.
Yes. Much to everyone's disappointment.
Was Excel the one where Nero got the white-winged super angel mode?
Yeah, it's like the one where she becomes Sailor Venus and saves the world.
Because reasons.
Yeah, because reasons.
Because reasons. Because, yeah, okay, Nero, shut up, get off the stage. I want to see what Tamamo's doing. But no, it's all Nero.
But yeah, so I feel like most of those pitfalls have been avoided in this game, and it plays through like quite an orderly story. You're just going to get a bit of ending fatigue because the story feels like it ends so many times as you get toward the back end.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think it's a definite recommend to anybody who's a fan of Fate, and it's like a solid passable.
Like,
I was going to bop it. Okay.
Like it's like to for any other purposes, it's sort of like this is a very solid 7 out of 10 game that you can sort of play. It's competently put together. It's got a decent story to pull you along, but it's just got an order of magnitude more gravity to somebody who knows Fate reasonably well, because it's in the first scene where just after, well, not the first scene because the beginning is it starts in media res and then goes back a little bit and then goes forward a little bit, and yeah, when it's getting started in the prologue. But after Yori summons Saber, they're in an alley. They've just managed to avoid their immediate pursuers, and then Saber starts explaining what's going on to Iori to the extent that Saber knows, which is not very much because the ritual is flawed, so they only have a mediocre understanding of what's going on. And Saber starts to walk slowly in a circle around Iori, explicating the whys and wherefores of the Waxing Moon ritual and what's going on.
She holding a glass of wine while she's doing it?
No, well, the Saber, I think by the end I had concluded that Saber was a guy.
Okay. But you're not
I'm
100% sure on that.
I'm about 80% sure. But yeah, so yeah, you've got a scene where the person doing the exposition is walking slowly in a circle around the guy being exposited to.
Hey, we've done that.
48-minute Fate Zero intro special where we gotta sit down and
watch these people walk in circles.
Explain the rules that we're about to break.
But at least they've got wine.
But yeah, so number one, it does have to do the exposition thing, and it's sort of dubious how much sense it will make without knowing a bit about Fate already. And number two, you will not get that joke unless you have seen the walking in a circle exposition a few times before, because Type Moon really likes it. I've seen it. I've seen it multiple times now. That they just seem to do it as a matter of course now.
Yeah.
But
if
this is
Grand
the
Order
notorious Fate
was
Zero opening.
presented in a more fluid animation style, they would have used it there too.
But yeah, yeah. So I think it's a solid 7 out of 10 for somebody like coming to it cold. It's definitely a competent game that I enjoyed, and I've heard of other people who just don't know Fate at all, just playing and having a really good time with it because the story it pulls you along. It's never moving too fast and it's never moving too slowly, or at least not for any great length of time.
Until you get a break bar that's like 30 gajillion years long that you gotta sit there and chew through.
The combat pacing that is kind of a disaster.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's that. And then next, the first part of chapter 2 of Rapid of Cannonbog came out on Blue Archive. So
I have not played it yet.
I have read it. It's very prologue.
Monty Python references.
It is very Monty Python references as well. Like you basically you start with the prologue to the prologue. Which is a flashback to Fox Squad sort of at their peak when they're not quite yet been announced their existence hasn't quite yet been announced to Kivotos, but they've gone on their first mission and accidentally emerged from the mission site in front of the paparazzi, so to speak. So they figure, oh well, we might as well go loud now. And they sort of introduce themselves and what they're about, type of thing. And the whole reason that they were infiltrating this building was because it was secretly being used to develop an ultra powerful weapon of mass destruction thermobaric grenade called the Antioch.
Of course it was.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely a Monty Python reference, and it becomes more and more clear as the story goes on. Because at one point, Rabbit Squadron are discussing why the hell did they name us Rabbit Squadron anyway? Like, at least foxes are a predator, type of thing. But then I think, can't remember whether Saki or Miyako says, oh, she asked one of her senpai once, why a rabbit? Why is their squad named after a rabbit? Which is just sort of like fluffy little herbivores. And the senpai sort of like grins and it's like, oh, because rabbits are actually super, super dangerous. They're so powerful that they can defeat an entire band of knights. And it turns out that there was a story written by an author, I think an author at Trinity General School, which tells the story of a band of knights questing after the Holy Grail, and that they ran into a cave which was guarded by a rabbit, and they thought, oh, it's a rabbit, so they tried to fight it, and it basically ripped them apart. And so they think, oh, so rabbits are actually really powerful then, are they? When they're in a corner. So what happened to the rabbit in the end? And they're like, well, they threw a grenade at it and it blew up into lots of little pieces. It's like, oh, that's not actually the most. That's not actually the most the best omen for our squadron, is it? But yeah,
That's how the story went.
Yeah, so it was definitely written by somebody who is a fan of Monty Python's Quest for the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
Which I didn't realise was particularly big in Korea.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought but yeah, it's international. The Spamalot stage show version of it has gone all over the world and it's been a big hit everywhere it's gone.
I guess, you know, slapstick absurdity is a comedy genre in pretty much every country that's not Germany.
Yep.
And Jam and Spamalot.
Yeah, really just getting up on stage and being completely ridiculous. Everyone is entertained. It's great.
You know, we were discussing something.
Rabbit's turn.
Oh right, we were no. I'm trying to think of something else where Monty Python came out recently. It was in Ari and I. This is a side digression that I'll get back to in a minute. Ari and I were trying to work out how to tell when one of us is going to get put on a hook and dragged away by a Skaven slaver. And
yep.
the discussion came up is that it sounds like somebody running along with a pair of coconuts.
Oh right, I remember that.
It's not entirely wrong.
I mean,
But,
if you listen for it, it just sounds like coconuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what's been released so far for Rabbits of Kennerbog Chapter 2 is the first 10 chapters of that story, which mostly seems to be setting the scene, and the main event that takes place is, there's not really spoilers, as everybody knew this was going to happen, Kaya's long-awaited coup, basically taking advantage of the chaos following the end of the primary storyline, right? With the Phronapates conflict and the Ark and all of that. Like, the chaos following that, and the fact that Ren was involved as the leader of that operation, meaning that she wasn't keeping the peace down on the ground as the leader, the interim president of the General Student Council. And because nobody really understands what was going on up there except for the people who were present, as far as everybody knows, she just abandoned her post during a time of chaos. And Kaya basically stacks the deck against Ren and seizes control of the General Student Council from her. And basically puts together a rather intricate plan to make it all go off without a hitch. The interesting thing about it, I suppose, is that while Kaya is sort of like a master manipulator who, basically gets everything to go her way, she still doesn't come off like a Mary Sue, because this is basically, it follows the kind of the arc of Blue Archive, really, the way that these things always play out in Blue Archive. And she basically becomes, while it's not explicitly put like this, it seems that she basically becomes the embodiment of the General Student Council President's speech that she makes, where she says, "Oh, I've spoken a lot of responsibility, but I didn't know what it really meant." And Kaya basically becomes that. Like, she's incredibly clever, and she's incredibly conniving. She's good at manipulating people and getting what she wants. And she talks about responsibility a lot. But when it actually came down to taking responsibility, she doesn't have a clue what she's doing. And she's always trying to push things off on other people. So she basically becomes the embodiment of, those flaws that the student council president speaks of in her monologue. Because while Kaya does manage to take all the power for herself, she doesn't really seem to know what she's doing at this point, and isn't prepared to bear the weight of responsibility. Like, she spends quite a bit of time sneering at Rin's incompetence, or as she views it, as a proxy for the General Student Council President, but clearly has no idea just how hard the job was. So yeah, it's basically, there is no way that she's the final antagonist for this plot arc, because she is not equipped to be that. She is barely competent at what she's trying to do. Even though she's incredibly smart, even though she's incredibly cunning and a good planner, she doesn't have the sort of spine required to actually be a Machiavellian genius. Or at least that's how it looks at this stage. I don't know how things will go going forward. But it's quite a nice balance that they have managed to strike with making her a clear and present threat, but not making her sort of like outer. She hasn't been made into the super genius, which would be a problem if she was, since Kivotos contains quite a few super genius type characters who, in their own autistic ways, are incredibly intelligent. So it would not ring true if somebody like that was really such a huge threat, because, well, these type of people are a dime a dozen. You could just find someone to counter them, and basically she gets what she wants because she's more ruthless than everybody else. But that ruthlessness is portrayed as being, sort of like childish and not really well thought through. So her coup plan is exactly the sort of outcome that you would expect to get in a scenario where you had a high schooler who was planning a coup to take over a city. It's like, yeah, they might be intelligent enough to do it, but they haven't thought it through because they just don't have the life experience required to do so.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's put together and with quite a fine balance, but we'll have to wait and see where the story goes. I don't think that there's a long gap until the next part comes out. I think we could probably expect it sort of like next week or the week after, the next 10 chapters or so. So I'm looking forward to reading it and seeing where it goes. Yeah. The next thing, Ari and I found some time to tool around a bit with Vermintide 2, which neither of us had played before as far as I'm aware.
Nope, I hadn't.
And I thought it was pretty entertaining. We didn't really know what we were doing, so it was mainly bumbling about. But I had a good time with it. So I will probably play some more of that game.
We
all the screaming about hook rats by the sound of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there was much straggling going on.
Yeah, that would usually be like we were in the dark pushing little minecart along, and somebody would just get hooked and dragged off into the darkness.
There was a whole lot of, oh no, I'm getting straggled and being pulled away.
Yeah.
Bad touch, bad touch.
It's what they do.
Getting grabbed by the ghoulies. Getting the bad suck from the fatties. Yeah, there's a lot of that. We had some fun with it though. I played the archer girl. You played the What'd you play?
Beard guy.
Beard guy.
Marcus.
Good guy.
Marcus. Well, he has an impressive moustache, man.
He does. That thing is legendary.
But yeah, so we played just enough. We didn't play for all that long. We played just enough to unlock the first extra job for those base classes.
Yeah, that doesn't take very long.
Yeah, but I had a good time doing it, and it wasn't like we were playing on the lowest skill level because you can only access that initially. But yeah, it went pretty good. I don't know how it's going to go when they stop showering us with health items on the next skill level up, though.
Yeah, the only thing that I just really didn't gel with was the very final boss for the act we did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what they were asking us to do for that boss.
Yeah, there's probably a way you were supposed to do it, and we were not doing that.
We wound up expending my entire quiver of damage hitting him while he was up in the air and just kind of hoping we could land the occasional hit while he was on the ground.
Because he just seems to teleport around so much. It's like, well, I was playing melee mainly because Marcus doesn't carry much ammunition in his base job. So I basically spent most of the fight running from corner to corner in the room, hoping that I would make it to the right corner before the boss teleported there, so I can actually get a couple hits in. I'm not really sure what you're supposed to do.
I was just picking a random corner he wasn't already in and hoping he would come to me.
Yep.
So I had a 1 in 3 shot.
Yeah, I don't know if there's like a way to stun him or something like that in such a way that you can lay some damage on.
From memory, is when he's flying around, you're supposed to be able to knock him out of the sky somehow.
Well, he stands up on perches. He does hover right before he does the big tornado where you got to run to the edge. We had that figured out by the end.
Yeah.
When he comes down, he can do one of two abilities. He can do a little explosion thing with the rush clones, or he'll do that from the center, or he'll go to the center, hover in the air, and do the big tornado that grabs everybody and not at max range.
Yep.
So we had that figured out, but we still couldn't find a way to exploit him in any way to get real damage on him.
Yeah.
So it was a very slow flanking process.
How can someone so fat move so fast?
Well, he wasn't really moving so much as magicking his way across the arena.
Yeah, it cheats.
But yeah, I mean, that's like something like these are not like enemies that you only fight the one time. Like, there's a game that is sort of grindy. You're supposed to do these missions a lot of times until you get good at them, type of thing, and then try and do them in really hard difficulties. So presumably, with experience, we would have figured out a more efficient way to bring him down than literally just firing off all of our ammunition at him because we couldn't work out how to get him to come down and fight like a man. So
yeah.
Other
than that, the base game of just running around was great.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
We finished the entire first act of the base story.
Nice.
So we got all 4 parts of Act 1 done.
I think that's roughly where I am. I don't get that far.
Yeah, that's enough to get your character to level 7.
Yes.
So
start getting the interesting loot.
Yeah, loot is not very well explained in a lot of ways.
Just take the higher number and hope for the best was my strat.
Yeah, well, I had figured out that if you get something with a higher level, you should always equip it before you open another chest, because it seems to measure your average item level.
Yes.
When it's giving you loot. So you should always try and push that as high as possible. And if you have a good chest, if you've got a crappy slot, you should craft something and jam it in there just to get a higher item level, so that you get better loot. That seems to be what was happening anyway.
There are some modifiers on weapons that are very important that I didn't notice until like our 3rd mission, where like for the entire 2nd mission, my arrows were doing damage over time instead of doing their damage up front.
Yeah, you should look into that. Like, at least read those. The ones on my gear were pretty much of a muchness. In the end, I found that in about 75% of circumstances, it was better to just take a higher number.
Yeah, usually it is.
At the stage that we were up to. Like, if once you've got like talent points and you've specialized into a particular type of play, I expect picking good modifiers is much more important. But at the beginning, when you don't have really much to do other than like try and survive, just get higher numbers. Higher number, go burr.
Yeah, and just go shoot things, punch things, smash things dead, and then get to the teleporter at the end and listen for coconuts on the way.
I can't tell whether the characters like each other or hate each other.
I think it's both.
Both. I
I think this is what qualifies for friendship in Warhammer Fantasy.
Yeah, this is they like each other as much as is permitted by the setting.
Yeah. I'm pausing here because after Vol's Week, I figure we can take a break.
Yeah, it's a good time for a break.
Oh, okay, we will take a break.
Yeah. So, because I've got to go to the bathroom really bad.
All right, well, let's do that then.
Okay, here's some music, folks. We'll be right back. And we're back.
Yes, indeed. So I was nearly done, but yeah, I was particularly impressed by the AI characters in Vermintide 2. Like, normally AI characters in games like this are absolutely retarded to the point of making you wish they weren't there. But these ones are actually really competent. Like, if you get in strife, they will backtrack to help you out.
I just love the irony of saying competent right as that exploded.
But yeah, I was quite impressed, and they can actually fight as well. Like I remember there was one particular situation where we had advanced quite far, and there was a poison wind globadeer had emerged behind us, like miles back, like at maximum range to throw globes at us without us being able to get close to him, which is a real bad situation to be in. But and I was like, Ari, globadeer, shoot him. And he's like, okay, where is he? And he was already dead because Saltspire had just beamed him in the head with one shot from his pistol at like 500 paces. It's like, wow, I guess he does know his job.
Like, the AI will actually respond. Like, when the special units come out, they will deal with them appropriately. Like, someone gets hooked, they will prioritize getting them unhooked.
That brings up one thing I noticed while playing when I started playing the Archer Girl. I fully expected I'm gonna have to switch because I'm playing on controller, but I'll give it a shot anyway. Because in these type of games, the aiming on controller with these type of games and the way enemies can move kind of erratically can be a little dodgy. But surprisingly, that didn't happen in this game. I was perfectly fine hitting headshots left and right with very little auto-aim. It just has a very good... it stops on a dime, basically, if you're using controller.
No drift
it's whatsoever. There's no extra input where it slides a little bit or anything. It just, when you let go of the aim stick, it stops. And you can hit stuff very easy. So I did not have to worry about precision being a problem with controller at all, which I was very surprised by.
Yeah. While I enjoyed the game, I don't think that I have it in me to play with randoms online.
I couldn't do that.
Yeah, it seems like it's set up in a way that could make it really toxic if you got people who are less than sterling. Not least because there's a leaderboard at the end of missions, and it's a leaderboard that only shows damage stats, basically.
Yes.
So anybody who's a meter maid is just going to like look for opportunities to do more damage than other people, even if it's the expense of the group. Like, because I was playing the base job for Marcus, which is functionally a tanking role, right? Like, after playing for an hour or two, I'd figured out that basically the purpose of the tank is to wade in and bonk anybody important off balance so that your precision damage dealers can remove them before they cause a problem.
Yes.
So your job is the bonker. You're looking to bonk as many things as possible.
Yeah, I would just sit there and wait for... Well, I wouldn't wait for it, but if I saw it all knock down like a line of dudes, I could be like, oh, it's special era time.
Yeah, and like, I would, if I saw like a rattling gunner come around the corner, then I would just like make a beeline for him and then knock him off balance so Ari could one-shot him without him getting to, pin down our entire group. Like, so that's the job of the tank seems to be to mass knock down large groups and to isolate threats and knock them off balance so that they can be killed without getting to unleash their powerful abilities.
Yeah.
None of that behaviour, however, would show up on the leaderboards. Like, there's no category for that. You do no damage when you're busy just knocking people off balance all the time.
Yeah, bonking does not do a lot of damage.
Yeah, but it's critical. It seems like once things do more damage, I expect that your group survival will depend on your tank's ability to keep things CC'd, which would otherwise wipe the group.
Yes, absolutely it does.
So if you are then in an online environment where people are paranoid about how they're going to look on the boards at the end, people are not going to be focused on doing their job properly unless they're playing at a high level and understand the stakes. So,
No, gate's open. We don't have to mess with that treasure room.
Oh, good.
so that suggests to me that the ground floor of online pickup group play in Vermintide is probably pretty dicey. Like you're going to have a lot of feast or famine depending on whether your group is in the right mindset or not. So I think I'll just avoid that whole experience. Thanks so very much.
Yeah, we don't have a clue what we're doing. We don't. So when we're playing, it's like, oh, we got the most. Who got the most damage? Oh, okay, that's nice. Did we beat the level? Because we haven't even beat all the levels yet.
Did we survive?
We haven't even found a tiny fraction of the pickup bonuses and stuff in the levels either. Like we would usually get like 1 or 2 times per level at best.
Yeah.
And we don't even know what some of the other pickups we got were. We basically were, in order to get any decent loot, we were reliant on the luck bonus for the loot calculation at the end.
Yep. But yeah, there's
because
like the seals and the tomes and all sorts of stuff you need to find in there.
Yeah, and then there's the grimoires. We never got any grimoires. I don't know whether or not they were in the stages we were doing.
Grimoires are special because you actually need to physically carry them.
Yeah, and they halve your health while you're doing it.
Yeah, because why not?
Because you get enormous bonus if you can lug one through the whole level.
Oh yeah. Like, it's well worth doing, but oh boy.
But yeah, so overall, I had a positive experience with it. I think it's a great game to play with friends. Maybe not quite such a great game to play with pickup groups, especially since at this point it's pretty old. So the community that are playing it now probably have very high expectations of a pickup player.
Yeah,
It seems to go like that for a lot of games once they've been out a long time.
They start to forget that new players exist because in some cases they don't.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I like the game. I'll be happy to play some more of it when I get the chance.
Yeah. Dawntide is basically that, but 40k.
Darktide.
Darktide, sorry. Dawntide.
I've heard it's making progress on getting better, but it's not quite there yet.
Yeah, like when it first came out, each character really only had one way of play, and that was strictly it. They've improved things a lot now. Changed the spec and things like that.
Does Fat Shark have amnesia or something?
Yes.
Like they literally did all of this once before. Like I'm waiting on Darktide to get to where Vermintide 2 is now, because Vermintide 2 is a great game. I played it now. I know it's enjoyable to play. There's no real reason to wrestle with a version of the game that doesn't have the quality of life stuff in it yet.
Yeah, it's getting there. It's really getting there.
And by the time it gets to that point, it'll be way cheaper too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, like I'll probably pick it up when the Steam winter sale happens or something, because it'll drop in price then, and I'll pick it up and check in now and again to see how it's coming along. Yeah, because I like 40k universe. I like Warhammer Fantasy Battle as well. At least the version of it that I'm familiar with. I don't really know anything about the new version of the story or how it's put together.
Didn't they try and soften it a bit?
They tried to sort of like comic bookize it, kind of, and it's all become very confusing, and it basically turned out not to be that well liked, of which I'm not really surprised. But yeah, it didn't go down all that well, and I think I've heard that they've actually relaunched Classic Warhammer Fantasy Battle in some way, because people just kept going back to it. But the idea was that their theory is, as far as I could tell, their theory was that the reason why Warhammer Fantasy Battle is not as popular as 40k is because the games are too dissimilar. It's like no. The reason people are a fan of Warhammer Fantasy Battle is because they like that version of the game, and reason people are a fan of 40k is because the setting is compelling and exciting. It's not because the people don't like the fact that the soldiers in the medieval setting march in ranks. That's not the problem.
No, that's not the problem. It's a very silly argument.
Yeah. But if that was the problem, nobody would ever buy those, whatchamacallits, Total War games.
Well, they're not at the moment either.
Well, that's a special case of its own.
That's right.
But you won't find many people saying that Rome Total War is a terrible game. They hate it. If they're the people who like to play those tactics games,
At least not based on the fact that the soldiers march in a line.
Yeah, but yeah. So I don't understand G-dubs. Ain't nobody who does.
Nobody do.
They are at least as inscrutable as WotC, who are having their own issues.
Oh, aren't they just?
Which we might talk about a little bit later if we get time. We'll see. But yeah, I'll leave my week there for now because I've prattled on more than long enough.
All right. Ari, what do?
All right. So part of my week was playing Vermintide Fall. We did this the day after Rantathon. So the first 3 days of my week were completely subsumed with work, and it was exhausting and tiring, and the end of year rush happened this year. It doesn't always happen, but it did this year. And I have been on the telephone with the factory about BS things all week. And they are just determined to be as stupid as possible and not get me the information I need. So I imagine they're dealing with other end-of-year rushes in reality, but I don't really care what their excuse is because I got customers and I need information from the factory, and they ain't getting it to me in a timely manner. So that's been fun. Thursday. Wednesday to Thursday evening because I slept during the day, so I was around for the late night times. Grand Blue Fantasy Versus Rising came out, and I was gonna buy this game when it came out because I played the beta version. It was fine. I enjoyed it, and I wanted to. If you get in on these anime fighters, you want to try and get in early so that you got a sizable player base to really play with and a broader skill range than just the tryhards and the occasional brand new guy.
Yeah, anime fighters more than any other genre seem to have that really steep drop-off cliff.
Yeah, they've got a real lensing effect there.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and just bought the full game and got the deluxe edition. So I got the extra colors and character and weapon skins and stuff.
You should probably mention a bit about the model.
Yeah, so I actually didn't know they were going to have a free-to-play version because I was going to buy it anyway. But they have got a free-to-play version of the game out where you can play Gran and 3 other characters on rotation. It's a pretty restricted free-to-play model, but it does let you download the game and basically play a big demo of it. I mean, I guess you could go full free-to-play if you were really okay with just playing with the rotation characters plus Gran. But
I mean, if you were just like dedicated to forcing yourself to do that, you would still get good.
You would get
good. Yeah, you could find a way to do that. And there are a whole lot of players that have clearly only been playing Gran or Siegfried or any of the other characters on rotation right now. And yeah, you can totally do that to see if you like the game. And then you can...
Well, I mean, I think that's important as well. Like, a lot of people... It's sort of like how people don't want to play sports outside their sports code if they've put focusing on it because they don't have time to devote to something that doesn't overlap with their skill set. So if you're looking at going into a new fighting game, you at least want to know whether or not it's part of the class of fighting games that you enjoy and are good at.
Yeah. So it allows for that. I think Grand Brews, their Fall Guys minigame that you could play, is a little restricted. You can't experience that the full way. I think you're locked into the default avatar if you can even play it. Lobby avatars are restricted. Not that matters. And I think you can only play in the lobbies. I don't think you can access ranked play, story mode, or custom rooms. But nobody really uses the custom rooms. Everybody just goes into a lobby and goes and finds an arcade machine to play it. So that's not that big of a drawback. And that's where you'll find most of the play in this game is people going into a random lobby for a region and just farting around and jumping around and emoting and talking at each other and sitting down at the gazillions of random arcade machines littered throughout the place to play each other.
writing spicy things in the guest book.
Yeah, the guest book is. I lost probably a good 2.5 hours to just going through the guest book to see how bad this can get.
Well,
What? I gotta wait on that to go away now.
they got all of us.
So yeah, some there's some things in the guest book. Lots of appreciation for parts of anatomy that you'd really rather people didn't appreciate as much as they do. Lots of appreciation for giraffe anatomy in particular.
What?
Because specifically giraffe females have very emphasized assets.
Aha.
Like their thighs and chest area looks like it's made of marshmallows.
This honestly just sounds like an excuse to draw people in funny shapes.
The giraffe are the men are very big, muscular men, and the girls are very bounced, boing boing.
They're very gifted. They're very uniquely gifted.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like an excuse.
It gives a whole new definition to marshmallow hell.
Yeah. Speaking of, one of the new characters is an Anila, a little sheep girl, and oh boy, does she fluff them up real good. She has many sheep that she throws at people, and you can send the sheep to go get them. She has super moves. They also involve
watame.jpg.
Yeah.
Gary, where can I?
Yeah, she does have them Watame vibes going on, and I enjoy playing Anila a lot. She's my favorite of the new ones. I do like the sheep motif going on there. But the real big thing with her is she's just funny to play because she has all these big flashy moves, but none of them are better than throw sheep at the enemy and just watch the sheep do way too much damage. So you could just keep throwing sheep at them, or riding sheep into them, or pogoing off the sheep. So she's a lot of fun to play. But yeah, and I pretty much spent my free time this week just playing that when I haven't got distracted by the guest book and losing faith in humanity.
It isn't an online game after all.
It has a rather strict filter, but as with always when it comes to these type of things, the community has found ways around it.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yep.
It is not that hard to come up with euphemisms, and oh boy, they're good at it in that guest book. Also, a lot of people like Nier, the new girl with who's like possessed by the spirit of death or something. A whole lot of people that are scaring me.
Is that also anatomy related, or?
I don't think that one's anatomy. I think it's just she decided to become best friends with death. I'm not sure what her story is. I haven't done the story mode yet. It's probably in the main game too, but haven't played very much of the main game.
Everyone knows Vera's best girl. Though I appear to be the only person on Earth who thinks so.
There are quite a few that like her. Although I do play Vera as my tertiary character of my three main characters, and she's crazy bitches.
He's just a little codependent on Catalina.
Codependent and wanting to jump her something is definitely how I would describe her. Because she's yeah, it's one of those it's one of them relationships.
Oh no.
Well, basically, the story is that Catalina was basically Vera's rival and the person she looked up to the most, and she basically disappeared one day off to go and have adventures, sort of thing, and basically left Vera behind, and Vera became sort of monomaniacally obsessed with trying to fill her shoes as the very best, and wondering if it was something she had done that made her be abandoned by Catalina because she just viewed it that way and just basically became incredibly twisted as a result of that. But yeah, she's a bit crazy. But she's sort of flanderized a bit now because being crazy is what she's famous for. But in any situation where she wasn't like directly focused on her issues with Catalina, she was able to present quite a balanced demeanor generally. The problem is that, you know, she's just presented as crazy all the time now because that's what people know her for.
Yeah, and she definitely is cray cray all the time. They do that with a lot of the characters. That their main trait is played up to 11.
Yo, flanderization.
Yeah, this overlaps a bit with the news topics this week, but because Grand Blue is basically the only thing I played this week, I guess I can go into detail with it. The localization is back in force.
Yay!
And Luane got a comment in the article Vol linked, but I don't really care what they do with Luane, because even in the Japanese, he spouts, he talks nonsense.
Doesn't he spout Zoomerisms now?
Yeah, it's converted to Zoomerisms, but his stuff is so nonsensical that he says, most of the time anyway, that I don't really care that much what they do with Luane.
I think the one that shocked me the most was probably the one where they tried to remove any cultural Japanese references to fair skin being beautiful.
Oh yeah, that one.
Like, that's pretty grotesque. It's like, and they deliberately inverted it. In any dialogue where somebody was complimented on having beautiful fair skin was changed to telling them they needed to get more tanned.
Yeah.
Like, in what way is that localization?
Yeah, don't worry. There's a character that is infinitely worse. That just is the shining example of this is not good, and that's like I mentioned last game. It's Ladiva. Ladiva has that Okama type personality and character, but not. They don't dress effeminately. They're just a macho man in a spandex suit, but they present themselves as though they ran an Okama bar, basically in Japanese, and you can tell immediately, without me going much further, what the localization team used this as an opportunity to do. And they make him full female pronouns.
Yeah, see, this is not translation, this is not localization, this is rewriting the story to suit your personal preferences.
Yeah, and thankfully Ladiva is a bit character in this, and only shows up occasionally, but it is front and center whenever they show up. And Ladiva is also, like, the only grappler character in the game. So normally the one or two grappler characters get a fair amount of play in these games because they have their dedicated playstyle aficionados that want to play the grapplers. Ladiva, I've noticed, has a significant lack of presence in this game in terms of play. And I bet you, dollars to donuts, it is because of that nonsense going on. Please don't run them away from each other.
Yeah, I don't have any AoE buttons, so those are entirely on you guys.
I do not get enough burst off or something. Because I'm suddenly the favorite child.
Yeah, I don't have the level of burst I do on mech, so
Yep.
So you're gonna have aggro on him when I'm killing the ads. I'm not sure I can pull him back. But yeah. So most of the characters are fine, but La Diva is the clear and away. This is just not okay, and is the big hang up I would put on recommending the game to people, because it really is that bad. Like, I want to recommend this game. I think Arc System Works put together a fairly competent game here, but the localization team has just lost the plot again.
Still.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, this is demonstrably not working out for a lot of companies, though. So I think that the days are numbered on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just really shined to me when La Diva, as the dedicated grappler character, has basically no player base representation. That type of character always has at least its token players.
Yeah, like, well, I mean, that's like why Potemkin is like the most recognizable Guilty Gear character, except for the main character.
Yep. Hago
Because he's that guy. He's that guy. He's the grappler one. Everybody can tell who he is.
Yeah, it's I have played a lot of people in that game now. I've played probably at least 40 or 50 different people in the matches that I've gone through, and I have encountered 0 La Divas unless the other person was playing random, and they happened to get it. It's the only time I've seen them pop up.
Well, whether they like it or not, people think characters like that are gross. So, like, they in Japan, it's funny when they're doing the Okama gag, because you're still allowed to do that gag in Japan. That's just funny. Everybody knows that that's a particular comedy trope. But when you're like obviously using it to push an agenda, people just get squicked out by it.
Yeah, it's not good. So yeah, that one shines above and beyond for all the other localization problems. That is the biggest problem, is anything to do with La Diva. Thankfully, they were a bit character in the last one. They're a bit character in this one, and mechanically for the rest of the game, it's fine. It has its simple input commands, which were touted as a feature, and this hacked a lot of hardcore FGC people off. But I don't really care. I might have cared more if at some point in my history of being more competitive at these games. But I just
Lord.
Yeah, but I don't care anymore, because the decision making when it comes to inputting special commands and the weights they have behind them and their different levels is more important than the motions themselves in this game. Just pushing out a special move and doing the wrong version will just get you punished. Like, if they can do it easier, it's just going to hurt them more than it's going to help them. And I don't really care.
I saw you get punished enough times for doing that this afternoon.
Yeah, I would accidentally do a DP because of a missed input or whatever, but yeah, that's me using technical commands, but that's on me. I chose to use technical inputs. And I don't really care if people want a more consistent input style. That doesn't bother me that much. It's yeah, the way they've changed the specials to work. There used to be a penalty for using simple commands that they would do less damage or have reduced properties on them, like you couldn't charge Grand's Fireball, for instance. But now you can pretty well just do whatever variant you want. The first 2 versions, the light and medium version of the special move, like we'll use a Fireball, for example. They do the slow Fireball or the fast Fireball. And the strong version will put the Fireball on cooldown for a little bit, but will give it its fully charged fast effect with a couple hits of durability, so one baby Fireball can't soak it. And the super version will do a lot of extra damage, but will also eat 50% of your meter. Or 50 of your meter. It takes 50 meter to do the big version, the big EX version. And this applies to every single special move in the game. And then you also have your 100 meter required supers, where you can do the baby one if you have 100 meter at any health percentage, and if you're below 35% and have 100 meter, your health bar will turn blue, and you can do your super skybound art and do the really big super that'll chunk them for like 50% of their health and damage if they take it raw. So it works out pretty good. They've got new mechanics with everybody has 3 tokens above their health bar, and you can use these. You can spend one of them when you're guarding to push back the enemy if you're getting pressured too hard. You can spend one of them to do a guard crush move that'll let you break their guard, but you can't follow this up. You have to spend another one to do a guard crush follow up, and that'll eat 2 of your 3 allowed tokens. And you can get a combo string started with one of the wall bounces or ground bounces already used in the combo. So you can do a reduced combo, but guarantee that it hits. And they can spend two gauges after you spend your first one to nullify your second attack. And the screen flashes and pauses right when the crush happens, so you have plenty of time to decide whether you want to negate their hit or not if you've got the tokens for it. So all those mechanics are very nice. They stop a lot of the turtley gameplay and give you answers to the heavy.
Is this like the burst in Blaze Blue?
It's the equivalent of it, but it's not as powerful as burst. You can't use it if you're getting comboed. You can only do the get off me if you're blocking.
Right.
So it's just a very strong push block. But it's still an answer to a lot of the pressure game that characters like Ewell and old Narmaya, because a lot of the characters did get changed, could get away with. New Narmaya is a lot slower. They buffed her damage and toned down her speed a lot, so takes a bit more finesse to use. But you can still put on some really crazy pressure strings with her. And push blocking is for situations like that. Let's see. What else? The other headliner feature, other than just the matches in general, is Grand Brews, which is Grand Blue Fantasy Fall Guys, except it's better than Fall Guys. It doesn't have nearly enough games in it yet, but they said they're going to patch in more. It's only got three levels for the first, second, and third stage, so nine total. And you can get a mix and match of one of the 3 for the first one, one of the 3 for the second one, and one of the 3 for the third one. And one of the ones for the second one is really the only dud, because unless you're really, really asleep at the wheel, you're not going to lose. And it's just a survive map. So
I watched 5 people die in one round.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they were doing. Like, I took an occasional hit in that, and I just didn't care because there's healing fields. Like, and there's so many healing fields throughout the.
What you would need to do is remove all of the telegraphs and remove the healing fields, and it would become a challenging game.
Yeah, you might actually see some people die. Yeah, that one's no good. There's a bunch of race to the finish maps. There's 2 race to the finish maps there's 3 race to the finishes for the first one. So the first map will always be one of the race to the finish ones, and you got to be in the top 2/3 to qualify. And there's one more that can show up as the finale. It's the most boring of the finale ones, but it's there. The best map is one of the finale ones where it's Bubs, and he gets you just have a perfectly square platform over an abyss, and he chucks bombs at you. Slowly at first, and then faster and faster with more and more of them and bigger bombs. And then he starts destroying the arena. So the arena gets smaller and smaller and smaller until eventually he just gets done with you and destroys the very tiny sliver that'll be left. And there'll be no more arena. And you just gotta hope that you're better at the other guys that made it all the way to the end and get your dive timing right, or maybe get popped up by a bomb. And so you're the last person to hit the kill zone at the fallout point. But that one's a lot of fun. It's a big chaotic mess, and it's just fun to play with. And unlike Final Fantasy, that Fall Guys has a lot of client-side compensation. You're not going to hit very many people with weapons if you're lagging, but it doesn't really matter because the weapons aren't that good. Like, you can find Mario Kart style pickups on the map that you can throw around and like create ice slick patches and patches that'll turn characters into Vern, the little dragonling character. They can't attack or use weapons, or basically all they can do is jump. They can't dive when they're Vern. But or you'll get like little swords you can charge up and do a big AoE around you that'll knock everybody down. Or you can get a big old axe that you can charge up and chop people with, and you'll knock them across the arena. but they don't really matter that much. What matters more is your ability to get through the stages and avoid the obstacles. So that's fun. It takes a little too long to level up in it. You don't get that much EXP. If you do well, like in the top 7 of a group of about 30 people playing, you'll get about half a level, and they expect you to get to level 50 to get the trophy for this mode. That's going to be quite the grind. That's a lot of Grand Brews, especially early on when there are not very many maps, and one of them is the Golem Defense map. That's just going to eat like 3.5 minutes of your time every time it shows up. But other than that, I like the mode. I think it's good and fun. I like the base game. I think it's good and fun. They've got a good system going on there, even with the simple inputs. I don't mind them at all. I don't think they're as fun as doing technical inputs. I think it feels better to flow your inputs a bit better. It does have a habit of confusing Dragon Punch motions a lot, but that comes with the territory in some fighting games. This one just is one of them. It's not something I'm unused to. You just have to be very deliberate with your inputs, but that's not that big a deal. I do sometimes use the simple inputs for doing the supers, though, because it only takes 1 quarter circle instead of having to clearly telegraph your double quarter circle, so it's just faster. So you can do reaction supers way better. If you see the opponent with a super on and you blocked it, you can punish with a raw super of your own and get full damage. So yeah, I don't feel any shame in using the simple inputs for stuff like that. I don't feel any shame in using the simple inputs on the few bits of charge character stuff there is still in the game. Because while most of the characters have had their charge moves ironed out, Charlotta still has 1 or 2 charge moves, and Eustace is like all charge moves. And if I get them on random when I'm playing random characters, I'm using simple inputs all the way. We ain't gonna mess with that garbage. So yeah, that's Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising. I haven't played the story mode yet. The first game's story mode was okay. It didn't really require you to know very much about Grand Blue to figure it out, and they included the first game's entire story mode, all 55 episodes of it, in this game. And if you already cleared it in the first game and you have saved data on your account, it'll just mark it as cleared and give you all the rewards from it immediately.
However, all of the wonky stuff from the original one.
No, well, it has the boss fights and stuff, but it's cut out like the beat 'em up style missions that weren't very good, and it's cut out all the RPG mechanics. So there's no more. Yeah, and the co-op that really didn't work very good. You're not missing a whole lot. A lot of people are complaining that it's gone, but it was an experiment and it did not work. Like, it did not work at all. So yeah, I'm fine with those being gone and go into just a normal story mode. And the story is still there for people that want to go through it, and you can unlock all the skins and lobby avatars and stuff from that. And there's new story there too. However, the gacha tickets are still gettable, but they don't let you get weapon skins for the characters anymore. They let you get weapon skins for Grand Brews. So whenever you get a sword-type weapon, you can have it glamored to look like Vern or something. But you get the character weapon skins just by playing that character a lot and building up EXP to level up that character. It doesn't do anything for you gameplay-wise other than give you access to more colors and weapon skins. But I kind of like that. It gives you a bit of incentive to try out the characters and really, if you really like one, to stick with it and level it up so that you get the weapon you want. Good old Fairy. Fairy has probably my favorite weapon to unlock, but I do not know how to play Fairy at all. She gets
Isn't she like one of the simplest though?
No. She's a summon pet character with a whip. And
I thought that they simplified her.
Oh, they did make her simpler. I'm not sure what they did. She is easier to play, but that doesn't make her easy to play. Because her stuff has fixed distances and where it goes, because she's throwing her pets around and they hop.
She's right.
Yeah, they hop to a specific point on the screen and will do their thing. And she got a big old whip that she can use to swing across the arena and do a full screen grab. But she's really wonky to learn how to play. But she has just this, one of her weapons is just a moray eel for her whip. That just has this big old dirt face on. So I might have to play
What is with this game and attacking people with sea creatures?
I don't know. I think in the main game, like on some Fridays, there would be a special bonus thing you could farm, like shrimp and turn in, and that's where the shrimp comes from. But the other sea animals, I don't know. I don't know why it likes animals from the sea when we are in the sky. You know, we're on floating islands. You would think that sea creatures would be not exactly abundant, but apparently they are. So yeah, there's that, and that's pretty much all I played. I bought Witch on the Holy Night as well, but I haven't even booted it up yet. I just haven't installed. I
haven't. I'm not in any hurry to try and settle in and read something that long because I'm sure it's ridiculously long.
I think it's like 30 hours when I looked up how long it was.
I don't think I've got 30 hours of free time in my life.
Yeah, I want to be able to really sit down and know at least during my at-home time I won't get kidnapped before I knuckle down and read that.
You whinged about not being able to read it for long enough.
Well, it's because of part of it is because of the start and stop nature of it's coming out. Okay, we can get excited for it now. Oh no, that translation died. We got another one. Oh, okay, we're gonna do it. Oh no, that one died. Oh, again? Oh, here we go. This one's definitely got it. He's got a rep for it for finishing them. No, that was stopped. It was part of it was the constant teasing of it. So this better be a goddamn masterpiece.
Well, from what I've heard, people liked it. People don't rave about it, but they do like it.
Yeah, it has my favorite Type Moon character in it, so I want to see more of Toko in her bad guy role. So we will see.
She just seems I don't really like her that much. I think she seems more like a needlessly bitter, unfavorite child or something.
Yeah, I can understand a bit of that when you also have a younger sister that seems to get everything. It's hashtag relatable, as the Zoomers would say.
Well, isn't Toko functionally immortal though? She's got time.
Yeah, I think whenever she dies, her soul like travels to the nearest available perfect puppet she's made, and just starts piloting that instead. So I'm not sure where her magic's at in this one. I've done my best to avoid spoilers for this one. I've had a few of the characters that show up spoiled for me, just because it's been so dang long. If you do any wiki reading, they're gonna pop into your periphery. But I don't know the actual events of the story.
Yeah, I expect that there's going to be an obnoxiously wet male love interest, because for some reason that branch of the universe always has obnoxiously wet male love interests.
Yeah, they do like their Mikia types on that part of the universe where they exist, and that's their key defining trait.
Yeah, it's like they are like made of pure blandness. In fact, being inoffensively bland is literally Mikia's origin.
It's like somebody that will do no more harm to others than himself or something. Some ridiculously...
it's literally just harmlessness.
Oh, that's like, it, yeah.
He's incapable of participating in harm on purpose.
So yeah, they will probably do something with somebody like that. There is a black-haired schoolboy that looks like he will fit that role to a T, that I know is a character. So yeah, we will see how that goes, and I will report back. I will. In case you want to read it at some point, I'll try not to spoil it when I report back. But we will. This better be the best dang Type Moon piece of literature out there for how much we've been teased about it in the West. I have relatively high expectations after nobody could seem to finish a translation for this thing.
Well, I mean, this coming week is the only week I'm going to be available to play video, so don't disappear off to read it this week.
Yeah, I will. I'll be on and off around most of this week. I expect work to eat me again a little bit, but we are running out of pre-Christmas time, and they will have to stop the Christmas rush at some point because I will just have to start telling people, yeah, there's no way the factory's getting that out before the 31st.
Yeah, most companies in New Zealand usually are going to have stocked by the 18th. Like,
yeah,
placing orders after that, it's just you're wasting your time at that point.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's going to cause absolute chaos for me because my subordinates don't seem to have grasped, no matter how many times I yell it in their general direction, you can't just use everything up and then expect me to magic new consumables out of thin air. You need to tell me before you use them up that we're running low. What part of this is hard to understand?
Yeah.
It just keeps happening. Or somebody will come to me and say, we're out of, whatever this is consumable is, we're out of this, we're out of that. It's like, why didn't you tell me before you used it up? Somebody took the last one out of storage and then didn't say anything. Why didn't they say anything?
The guild bank's out of strength potions. Yeah. My problem right now is customers are trying to dump their end of year budget if they've got any left over. So they're trying to buy extra pumps and stuff, which normally is a good thing. But they want it all processed before the end of the year and to get an invoice to them before then. I'm like, that ain't how this works. And I don't know if the factory can get it to you before the 31st. In fact, I don't know if the factory can get it built before the 31st because it's going to take you 2 weeks at least, even if you expedite it. I mean, I'll happily take the expediting fee if you want to pay it and gamble on it, but it may not get there before the 31st. I know you want to have your books all neat and tidy, but it just probably ain't happening.
I was too busy to check on the CapEx budget for the year, so I'm just going to have to assume that the accountants will figure something out.
Yeah. So I assume I will be kidnapped for part of the week doing that, but I'm hoping it'll start to wind down as the week winds on because we're just running out of time in the year.
I'm going to be away. I'm traveling tomorrow, and I'm going to be visiting my parents for the week of Christmas and then a couple of days after that. And I don't have anybody to work the lab on the Friday before New Year or the Saturday before New Year, so I'm coming back in time to work those 2 days.
Let's see. Yeah, I'll be taking Christmas Day off. And I will be taking New Year's Day off. Maybe New Year's Eve off if it's dead and I'm caught up. But the way things have been going, I'm not going to be caught up.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever be caught up ever again. I don't think that's going to happen. So I've just got to sort of take my lumps, as it were.
I've had some fleeting days this year where I've been totally caught up. Where I get to the end of the week and that weekend is just bliss because I'm caught up. And then on Monday, everything explodes again. And I'm like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's gonna happen. I'm hoping that that over that gap week between Christmas and New Year, I've basically rostered pretty much everybody to come in. So I'm going to basically bully them into doing something useful in that interim period. So, training new people, getting caught up on documentation, that type of thing. But more often than not, people try and find excuses why they need to sneak out or whatever, and then they'll just disappear. It's like, well, I mean, you're paid a wage, right? So you just don't get paid? Is that okay? Is that really okay? And then yeah, and then they complain that they don't get enough money. It's like, well, you didn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll be happy when I get to a point where it's just what's a good way to put it? Where I can just work days that are not 8 to 6, because it's been that pretty much every day for the past 3 weeks. I just if I can at least get back to 9 to 5, that would be nice.
Yeah, I'm sort of stuck on 9 to 8 at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I would very much like to find a job that doesn't require me to depend on the integrity and good moral character of others so much.
Yeah.
Like,
good luck
I
with
don't
that.
like depending on other people's work ethic constantly, because it's terrible most of the time. And people with good work ethic burn out because they are propping up people who don't have it.
Yeah. Oh, it's a pain. But yeah, I've stretched my week as far as I can talking about Grand Blue and stuff. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I got.
Fernu?
I don't know. Fernu left
What?
the group and disappeared on us, and then
No,
went quiet.
I'm been off doing the White Mage quests.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that explains it. So where's he going? Where's he running off to?
Because you're not allowed
He's
to do
not
any of
level-
these class quests while in a group because game says no.
He's not level 71 yet. He's not allowed to leave.
That said, though, I am really clown shoesed at the moment. My character is red and yellow and looks like he peeled Ronald McDonald and wears his skin. So there's that.
You and your Ronald McDonald.
Yeah, early game armor in basically every MMO is clown costumes.
Yeah, it do be that way.
Right. So in the news for the week. This week past, it was announced that E3 is finally dead.
Ding dong, the witch
They're
is
not-
dead. Yeah.
I mean, they haven't held it recently, but it was always sort of just it was in a holding pattern, like, oh, well, we haven't made a decision. We're not having it this year, but we'll see next year. But no, they've officially decided that they're not doing it anymore.
Yep. And the resounding response I've seen around this has been a great big, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it realistically hasn't existed for the past few years. Like, it's even if they say that it's now dead, everybody has just assumed it was missing, presumed dead.
Yes.
At this point, so yeah, it's not really that much of an event, even though they seem to think it is. I bet Jeff Keighley jizzed in his pants though. This is what he's been angling for.
Well, he's been standing in front of the mirror the last couple of days, so I assume that you know what? Never mind. That's going filthy.
I bet you he's got plans to try and usurp it with the Jeff Keighley grand season of announcements.
He's already been doing that the last couple of years. The what do they call it? The Summer Games Fest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But he will assure you that he already knew though.
Oh yeah.
Nothing is new to him.
Yeah,
he knew around.
He totally played this behind the scenes at PAX this one year.
He knew about it since the Cretaceous period. So yeah.
And as Penny Arcade reliably informs me, he has 6 nipples.
Yeah. That. Every now and again they put out a bit of art, and I use the word loosely. That is just. Why? Why did you create this? What have you done? Yeah, 6 Nipple Jeff Keighley is one such piece of art. So yeah, it's dead, and nobody really cares. Honestly, E3 has not had any purpose, I suppose, the last few years. Like,
yeah, it's we've already transitioned into this is just the time you make big video game announcements, and we don't need a big presser for it anymore.
yeah,
They'd already closed to the public. They'd already removed all the booth babes, so we can't see our draft cosplayers and their marshmallows. So what's the point?
Yeah, like when they first started out, it was an industry conference, and then they kind of opened the doors to the public, and everyone got hype and could talk to the developers face to face and all of that. And then the whole thing became less about, talking to the fans, talking to the developers, and more about talking to the media. But now the games media is dead. Games journalism is just gone. The industry is dead. Nobody's told journalists that yet, but they're learning. They're finding out.
Well, they still do have some pull, and if you just look at the views on their YouTubes, they do have reach.
Yeah.
But it is only the normies. They're not reaching the video gamers anymore.
No.
So.
And a lot of those big sites are being shut down or sold off, or they're just sacking everyone. So.
Yeah. The endless pursuit of infinite growth that is always and forever will be unsustainable just continues. They are playing Christmas tunes in Gridania.
That's nice. It's a nice change from the anime tunes.
They may be sneaking anime songs in there too. I don't know, but they're all in Santa outfits and just strumming away right now on Christmas tunes.
Yep. There we go. I am now a white mage.
Did you now have spells?
Well, I got Cure 2 now.
Oh, good. So you can take Cure 1 off the bar?
Not yet, because it still has the combo on it at this point.
No.
Gap. Don't need to do that. It is a trap.
Is it?
No, we do need to do that.
I haven't played with it yet, so yeah. Okay, let me actually look at this damn thing.
It is the single most famous noob trap in the entire game.
Okay.
It is never worth fishing for it.
Yeah, I see the problem now. I hadn't actually properly looked at it. I just thought, combo and just put it there. But yeah,
your mana is so efficient already. Yeah.
Who thought that was a good idea?
It's a proc chance. Mana is such a non-issue that you don't need to worry about the increased mana cost of Cure 2. And Cure 2's potency is so much bigger than Cure 1, there is literally no reason to ever push the Cure 1 button in a hope to fish out a free Cure 2.
Yeah, so let's just
only reason to keep it on your bar is when you pull Sastasha from the roulette.
And even then, you can make a macro.
Yeah, you wouldn't need to heal on that one anyway most of the time.
No, you wouldn't.
Like, I literally have a macro on Benefic that turns it into Benefic 1 when it gets synced down.
Or just spam Medica. Alright, so yeah, where were we? E3, right. But, I don't think there's a whole really more to say about E3 because it's dead. We kind of knew it was when they cancelled this year.
This is more about them admitting the state of play rather than a change in the state of play.
Yeah.
No pun intended, considering Sony called their program replacing E3 State of Play.
Yes. So yeah, there's really no need for it now because there used to be they peddle all everything to the media and then they would peddle it to the plebs. But now the game developers just talk straight to the people anyway.
But way back in the day, E3 was a proper convention. It was a proper consumer expo.
It was.
There was a press day, I think.
Yeah, there was.
But it was open to the public.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now there's better places to go if you're a player and you want to talk to people who are making the games. You can go to PAX or you can go to other places.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure that Gabe from Penny Arcade once mentioned that he sold his Nintendo 64 for tickets to get tickets to go to E3.
Probably back in the day.
Because back then, normal people could go.
It used to be the big thing. You'd know about everything before everyone else because YouTube wasn't really a thing at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd be able to go, and then you get to gloat. You get to talk to the developers. It was a big deal, a big event.
From those days when people bought print gaming magazines.
Yes. Yeah. Nah, it's dead, and frankly, it just failed to move with the times, really.
Well, it doubled down on the game journalists, and game journalists just they ain't gonna draw the crowds and viewership you need for this kind of event.
They go do the opposite,
Yeah,
actually.
there was no moving with the times. It would have had to become something entirely different to what it was. It would have had to, in order to regain any kind of vitality, it would have had to reimagine itself as an entertainment expo proper. There was no route to keep it alive as a press event, because nobody cares about the opinions of the press anymore. What they care about is the opinions of, like, Mr. Beast and Ninja.
Well, nobody cares about the opinion of Ninja, because you get the opinion of Ninja's wife, but anyway.
Well, more of the of Cringer, more or less.
Cringer, yeah.
'Cause, yeah, he's pretty much the most cringy organism on the internet.
He built a career around Fortnite and Fortnite alone. Of course he's cringe.
But yeah, it's like there's nobody who is watching press outlets. They delude themselves into thinking they're still being read, but most of the time they're being used as reference material for content creators that are actually making money.
Yeah.
At best, they're aggregators who are writing listicles mainly.
Yeah, they used to be there just to farm venture capital, but that's not working anymore either.
What they do can be done by an AI, so we don't really need them.
Better.
But as such, there's no. The E3 had chosen a dead end path, like wedding yourself to the fate of yellow journalism is not really the way to the future. They are part. When they chose to stop being a consumer expo, they became part of the press edifice. That was the option that they chose, and so it is only reasonable that they die along with the press edifice. They are simply a reflection of what is going on in games journalism. And as Keighley is hell-bent on trying to demonstrate at any opportunity, the delivering announcements directly to the consumer is the only way that you can do announcements and for them to have meaning now. They may watch through the lens of somebody else, but they're definitely watching Keighley because Keighley loves to be watched. That is his favourite thing in the world. And he's managed to set himself up in the position of being the middleman simply because he was the one who was there first.
Basically, yeah.
There will come a day when people realise that actually Keighley isn't needed either.
I think people are already starting to get that way, because the memes from this year's Game Awards weren't about the cringy stuff that happened on the stage or like the weird awards they were given. No, it was all about Jeff Keighley talking about himself and chasing people off the stage.
Yeah, well, it's just flailing his 6 nipples at them. But,
yeah, why?
But like I was saying, E3 wedded itself to the fate of games journalism, and they died along with games journalism. Jeff Keighley has chosen to do the exact same thing with a different edifice, that edifice being the Oscars. He has wedded himself to the fate of the Oscars. So he's going to track the same path that they did, so long as he is pretending to be them.
Yeah, nobody cares about the Oscars.
And how many people care about the Oscars?
Nobody it's just gives sort of a toss about the Oscars.
It's just sort of a joke, and that's the reason why Keighley is leaning so hard into being an advertising venue at his Game Awards, is because he knows that the Oscars days are numbered, and that he's trying to find a way to perpetuate the organism. But the organism that he has founded is built on the Oscars model. That's what it's trying to ape. So it's going to end up, sooner or later, travelling down the same path unless it can recreate itself as something else. And if all you are is an advertising venue, well, you're not actually necessary for the process of advertising. You just have the fig leaf of being an awards show to make you appear to be sort of like a centralised point around which you can gather all of these things while lots of eyes are watching you. But if people cease to care about your awards, like they did with the Oscars, then people will no longer tune in to see the advertising. So you will cease to be necessary. And that's the road that he's currently on. It's just a matter of how many years will pass before that manifests fully.
Yeah, I think it really kind of stood out this year because it was like 30 seconds. You're presenting the awards, you're giving them 30 seconds. Which, last year he gave them too long to talk, honestly, and they ended up waffling. This year, they've gone too far the other way, and instead of talking about awards or actually letting the companies get up and get some, in some cases, well-deserved accolades, they were just chased off the stage the moment they got their award.
You can see the shepherd's crook coming in from the side the second the music starts playing.
Yeah. Like, it was funny when they did it to Chris Judge, because, I mean, memes. But when they started basically doing it to everyone, really.
I tell you what, I didn't really know Chris Judge until the Game Awards shenanigans with him.
We need to sit you down and watch some Stargate then, sir.
Indeed.
So, yeah, I have not seen very much Stargate. But, man, that was so funny when he took the Modern Warfare dig. He won points.
Oh, the looks he got was glorious. I loved it.
Yeah, there were some cut people out there.
Oh yeah, like, yeah, okay, you waffled on last year, Chris, but we can forgive you for that.
I all is forgiven for giving away all those free Steam Decks last year.
Yeah. So yeah. What am I looking for? Glade petitions? Shit. Crap. I'm doing interior decorating, and now I'm trying to remember what kind of walls I need.
I will come to your house. But yeah. Oh man. Good old Game Awards and E3. So yeah, E3's dead.
E3's dead. I think the Game Awards, it's in its current incarnation, it'll probably last a couple more years. And then it's gonna just die as well.
I think it's gonna depend on how quickly people continue to sour on award shows in general. And that souring could abruptly accelerate at any point.
And I think that's going to be dependent on, the Oscars. Like, the last couple of years we had the big slap, of course, which kind of, people started actually paying attention to the Oscars again because memes. But I really don't see it coming, because, like, the Oscars right now is basically for a bunch of Hollywood A-listers to get up on the stage and fillet themselves.
Basically, it needs to get to a point where winning an award at the Oscars or the Game Awards or something like that, it has a negative impact on you in some way for them to really start losing favor.
But people know that the weighting of the community's opinion is basically non-existent. It's just people giving themselves awards ultimately.
Yeah, well, this year the Game Awards, I think the community only accounted for like 4% of the actual vote.
Every time you've said that number, I think it's changed.
No, it's always been around 4%. But yeah, it means nothing. The community vote means nothing. The Steam Awards at least mean something. At least as far as the community goes, because it's the community who nominates everything.
So I mean, what happens to the Game Awards when, like, Hollow Ian decides to collab with somebody and do an awards show on YouTube?
I mean, then,
like, do people care about that anymore? Do people care about the Game Awards anymore when there's another more accessible thing that, there's a huge number of eyes on this as well, and it's like pre-existing gaming communities primarily at the center of it, and so on and so forth. People who are not Jeff Keighley are doing the presenting, who are, all the talents at HoloLive, they are well-seasoned entertainers now. Yep. They know how to keep people interested. That's their job.
On the other hand, though,
whereas
it could be just Bibu getting up on stage and talking about the Riz and scaring everyone.
Well, the thing is that those, if they were decided that they were going to be presenters for an awards show, like, they would be individuals that gamers can identify with as having gone through those experiences.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Keighley spends all his time trying to explain how he is better than everybody else, how he is better than the gamers, than the consumers of the product, because he knew about this back when the Earth was still clicking hot and starting to coalesce into the form of a sphere.
You mean there was matter? He knew about it before then.
Basically, Keighley has separated himself purposefully from the gamers he wants to sell his show to. He is presenting himself as their god, and
or possibly
people don't really appreciate that.
No, they don't. It's like, you're a smug ass. Get off the stage.
I mean, I guess that in and of itself is the gist of the Penny Arcade comic.
Yeah,
that they did on the topic, which I have linked in the live show chat.
If we've had to look
If
at it,
anybody
you
wants
have to
see
look
what
at
I'm
it.
referring to. Yes, you have to behold the
Look at
glorious
it.
visage.
These Riviera petitions. I'll try to remember. All right, so that was that, and yeah, E3 Ding Dong Dead. Speaking of ding dongs, you want to talk about Twitch?
This whole story sort of passed me by. Like, I was sort of peripherally aware that it was taking place, but
It happened so
was
fast.
already
It was so fast,
already
and
over by the time.
it was so funny at the time.
I think the speed of it adds to the comedy.
Yes.
Because, it's okay. So first off, we're not going to cover the full details of the policy change because I don't have them handy. I think they're in the article, but it's whatever. Basically, you could have artistic nudity on Twitch now.
Yes.
They had a very broad definition of that, but it had the exact effect that you think that would happen. Is the day it becomes okay, booby streamers everywhere.
Yep. So what happened is
it became a cam whore site.
Yeah, they loosened the restrictions on nudity, and yeah, under artistic nudity, you could do you could do a lot, as long as you didn't do things like show nipple or stuff like that. So you had a lot of VTubers, not just VTubers, but also camtubers and all that, get up and take off their shirts, and they would show everything except the nipple.
Yeah, lots of pasties.
Lots of pasties, but it seems like Twitch also didn't really outline to their moderators what they were doing. So people were getting banned all over the place, and it wasn't just the ones that were showing off boobies. It was like artists who had drawn a blank in order to keep drawing.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you draw. If you draw... when you start drawing a human shape, you draw basically a Ken doll blank. But... no, apparently that is too close to boobage for the likes of Twitch. So yeah, 24 hours. It was boobies everywhere, and bands everywhere.
More than the reports for bans, though, it was mostly that this just had the exact effect you would expect it to. Were the turbo thoughts of the internet.
Nudity on the internet? What are you talking about? No such thing could ever happen.
I know, right?
Yeah. And just as soon as the thoughts got wind of it, boobies everywhere.
It was a free market for thoughterry, yes.
And this lasted all of a day.
Yeah. It was just bang, flash done. Flash, and then, lots of flashing.
And then the Twitch people that came up with this wonderful change apparently had a talking to by their higher ups and like, yeah, this had the exact effect that we should have seen coming. Maybe we should roll this back.
Everyone else knew this was going to happen. Why didn't you?
Yeah, it's like, anybody that's been on the internet can tell you what happens when you allow boobies on your website.
It just makes me paranoid that there's another secret story underneath, and this was a furore designed to cover something up.
It could very well be with Twitch, because they're always doing something.
It's so stupid. It's like so obviously a stupid idea.
Yeah. It's like this. So yeah, the whole thing lasted 24 hours. It was just so unbelievably dumb. And yeah, a whole bunch of VTubers even got in on it. Like, no HoloLive ones, obviously, but a bunch of Ninja Sanji and...
standard.
Yeah, them. A lot of the indies did as well. So yeah, it's just funny.
Yeah, your Shy Lily types. Any of them that have a career built on telling their audience how much they can stick up their hoo-ha.
I mean, it's not inaccurate, but yeah.
Like, them types had a field day for a day.
Yep.
And that's all that was on the front page.
What? Just boobies for days. I actually looked at Twitch at the time, and yeah, it was all thottery.
Yeah, like we allowed the Turbo Thoughts free reign, and they went wild. Who could have seen this coming?
Who'd have thunked it?
Yeah, and
so I guess Twitch has now gone back to being about 90% thottery instead of 100% thottery.
Yeah. So thankfully, everyone who jumped onto it, well, in some cases, thankfully, the VTubers anyway, they jumped on it because of the memes, but A lot of those bans have been lifted. So it's just back to business as usual now.
Yeah,
back to your regular background radiation level of thottery.
Yeah. Now you have to actually look for the hot tub streams to find.
Oh, you don't have
find
to
the
look for them.
Yeah, well, now you have to actually go to those to get your thottery. Now they're not on literally every stream. You can sometimes find video games by accident in there.
Sometimes, yes, if you're unlucky or lucky.
Some of them have been caught just sort of like prancing around in front of their camera, claiming to be playing a rhythm game when they've just like put a YouTube video of somebody playing a video game up.
Yes.
And they're just basically mugging for the camera.
Yeah. That sort of thing happens a lot.
But yeah, you cannot in a hobby that has a primarily male demographic. I know y'all don't think boys and girls are different anymore. The world at large, but I'm here to tell you, if you give boys the opportunity to see boobies, and girls go, I can make money off that. Your website's done. That's all your website will be.
OnlyFans.
Like this has been showed throughout human history with the number one profession in the world. You should know this, but no, you don't read a history book.
Yeah.
Oh.
You do remember that brief period where OnlyFans tried to get rid of the boobies?
No, I don't actually.
It didn't last very long. They wanted to clean up their website and get all the boobies off their site.
How? The only thing that they've got for sale is boobies. That's like a supermarket deciding they don't want to sell food anymore.
Basically, yeah. That's exactly the situation they ended up in. So, it went over about as well as you might expect. Why not? Oh, I can't make those. That's annoying. So, yeah. They realised that if they got rid of all the boobies off OnlyFans, they would lose 95% of their market. Because everyone else who was not trying to show boobies on OnlyFans had already gone elsewhere.
Yeah. Having an OnlyFans pretty much for the entire time the site has been in public consciousness means you're a turbo thought.
Hey, they know their market now.
Yeah.
I'm still sort of vaguely hoping that e-thottery will eventually go out of fashion.
I think this is a vain hope, and it will only continue to get worse until the fires finally come.
Thirst springs eternal, unfortunately.
Yeah, the thing is that thirst springs eternal, sure, but I feel like this sort of democratization of thirst is about the crassest way that humanity could have gone.
Oh yeah.
Oh, don't underestimate degeneracy, is what I've learned.
Like there are less crass periods in history than the one we're in now.
Yes, I have, but you see, I have read the guest book in Grand Blue Fantasy. I know we can go further.
No, we should not, though.
You think it's bad now, but we have not reached near the bottom yet.
But it's like digging to the bottom of a well latrine. You don't want to do that. Just don't.
Well, I mean, it's like what are the ethos going to put up on offer once like obedient AI generated images of women replace them?
Authentic feet.
Genuine feet.
Yeah, that's about all they got.
It's like the thing is, you can make AI generated feet.
Can.
I guess so.
I guess that they can't make AI generated gamer girl bathwater, I suppose.
They'll find a way to 3D print it.
3D print water. Okay, let's move on to a slightly less disgusting topic, please. Oh wait. I know what our next topic's going to be.
A topic that's disgusting in a different way, maybe.
Possibly, yes. Do we have to talk about Wizards of the Coast?
Well, they are making themselves the men of the hour, and there are people on every side of this debate. And I don't feel like I need to have any sympathy for WotC.
I think they kind of burned all their sympathy a long time ago. So
basically, Hasbro has kicked off another massive round of layoffs and sacked a massive portion of their Wizards of the Coast division, from what people are saying.
yes, the initial, I guess, copium when it first happened was like, oh, well, they're not touching WotC, are they? No, they are very much touching WotC.
No, in fact, they were going to touch WotC so hard and so malevolently that they needed to have a separate set of layoffs just focused on them.
Yes. So, yeah.
Now, the thing is, people are saying, "Oh no, this is Hasbro killing the golden goose. This is is stupid. This is a terrible idea." But the reality is that if WotC was a golden goose, Hasbro wouldn't be doing cuts there.
The problem is that goose
because
was
they
once
want
golden.
money. They like money.
Yeah. Yeah, that golden goose, though, at this point has been filleted and, lobotomized, carved up to tiny little pieces, and heavily tarnished. It is a very soiled goose.
Even that, I think, most people are presenting that as apologia for Wizards of the Coast, and I don't think Wizards of the Coast deserves apologia. I don't think that Wizards of the Coast was lobotomized. I think that they lobotomized themselves.
Yeah, they did absolutely did.
They make terrible products now. Mm-hmm. That's the upshot of all of this. They are not making money. They are not a golden goose. People keep saying that they defend them, and the worst defenders, in my opinion, are the guys at Penny Arcade, who they're defending them because they live in Seattle. They know these people. They think the sun shines out of their backsides. Yeah, well, Tycho is transing his kid, so I mean, it shows what his judgment is like. So the reality is that for a number of years now, WotC has just been, the marvel of Hasbro. They have not managed to accomplish anything but rehashing old ideas and doing, cringy crossovers with shallow appeal that are essentially diversity statements. So there are two main properties, as everybody knows, that WotC coins its money from. One of those is D&D, and the other one is Magic the Gathering. Now, D&D doesn't make very much money because it's just basically a licensing machine, right? Mm-hmm. And they tried recently, in the past year, to tamper with that license. And we saw what that pays off like.
They failed.
So they are basically obliged to take a step back and not tamper with it too much now. Their ventures in that realm are largely going to be electronic. And that's basically going to limit them to being pigeonholed now that they've got their electronic product. I don't know how much of it is finished and how much of it is still in the work. They're basically their D&D aid, electronic D&D
Oh,
aid.
you're talking about the one D&D client?
Yeah.
Because that's gone over with consumers like a wet fart.
Yeah, well, I mean, they thought that they could license that into predominance. They thought they could just use Lawfare to do it, and they weren't able to. So that branch of the company as like a money printer is essentially dead. You don't need to buy modules to play D&D. Mm-hmm. There's nothing left for them to sell.
You've got...
Because what they sold was a framework that people really only need to cut their teeth on the concept, and after that they can dispense with it.
Yeah. What they've put out for that client now has basically been met with thanks but no thanks. It's like it's very bare bones, and what they've put together has been... It's a variation of what's basically been available for a very long time already. So...
Yeah, I remember seeing these products already in use at panels, at PAX in 2016 or whenever the hell it was that I went to PAX. When did we go, Fern? I don't even remember.
Yeah, 2016.
Yeah, it was already in use then, the same products, doing the same things.
Yeah.
Probably with more features.
You've got the rule changes that are coming up with or whatever the hell they're calling it now, 1D&D. They keep changing it because nobody likes the name 1D&D. A lot of the response to that has basically been people have looked at it and said, well, we're going to take what works from this and we're going to ignore the rest and we're just going to keep playing D&D. No, we're not going to buy any more books.
Yeah, see, there's not like a sanctioned environment that requires people to take it up. So if you look at something like Magic the Gathering or Warhammer, there are sanctioned tournaments using sanctioned rules, and they have the support of the company, and people who want to run these competitions, they can get assistance from the company with like promotional stuff and so on and so forth. Like it's a collaborative effort between community and company to some extent to get big competitions off the ground. You can play 40k just fine without using any genuine models and without using any genuine source books or whatever. You can just pirate that stuff if you are that way inclined.
Yep.
And still play. But you can't participate in the larger community because the larger community is built around large events, and those large events are sanctioned and have the support of the company. So there's a framework there where the company can still be relevant. However, for D&D that doesn't apply.
Nope.
Because it's not competitive, or under normal circumstances it's not competitive.
You've got your Adventurers League, but that's been cancer for the longest time anyway.
So that division of WotC is basically a dead letter as far as making money is concerned, which leaves Magic the Gathering. Now, Magic the Gathering has been a money printer for many, many years. Mark Rosewater is very, very good at making that a marketable product and has been for a long time. The problem is that the bloom has basically just wilted on its own over the past few years, and that, in my opinion, is largely due to the preoccupations typical of people who live in Seattle. Now, Seattle is basically like San Francisco or Portland. It lives and dies based on the politics of the people there. And you cannot exist in that environment without being political. And there is only one view that is permitted there, and it is the ultra-progressive one. Everybody living and working in that area adheres to the same set of beliefs, because you will get blackballed if you don't. And WotC is based there. So their orientation as far as producing product goes for Magic the Gathering has basically been the Marvel approach, where you look at what you've done in the past that has been successful and reheat it with extra diversity. This has not gone down well at all. There have been plenty of successful sets in the past, but they hardly really do really new ones anymore. Like, I stopped following MTG, so I don't really know what they're up to. But I stopped not long after Theros. But they were already in the process of just rehashing things over and over again. Like, they did Return to Ravnica. I think that they've done Zendikar again. I think they've done Dominaria again. They just keep going back to the same well over and over again. They did Mirrodin again. Like, there's no originality left there. They're just looking at what was popular in the past, how can we do it again? Then they tried to solve the problem by doing crossovers, and so you end up with things like Godzilla being in Magic the Gathering. It's like that, nobody asked for this.
That's
nobody
hardly
wanted
the silliest one either.
That's not the silliest, but I'm trying to create a case that is not just cherry picking the most absurd example.
True.
I mean,
because even though Godzilla is not the silliest thing that they did, it is still silly.
It is still silly.
It is incredibly silly, because Godzilla is not a character in the Magic the Gathering universe, and never has been.
Yeah.
That you could have made an...
is Optimus Prime.
You could have... Well, yes, that is, but, like, you could... The point is that it's pointless, right? Because you don't need Godzilla. There's not that many... Even if there was a huge stable of, like, monster fans out there, there's not. That's more of a Japanese thing.
It's pretty niche.
The kaiju fans. Like, you could have made an excuse for something like the Tarrasque, because it's such a staple of classic D&D, and there's a huge amount of crossover between Magic the Gathering and D&D. You could have done something like that. But no, you chose a licensed creature because you were trying to lure in people that recognised the licensed creature who were not already part of the player base. You were trying to appeal to new people using an IP, and this is an incredibly shallow approach to things. Number one, it creates tourists and diehards who are the whales of your sales market don't like tourists. And number two, you're cheapening the whole thing. that sense of exclusivity that makes a niche hobby really boom, the sense that it's a real special thing all of its own, is eroded by incorporating in foreign IPs like this. It's not going to sustain the mystique that MTG has. It's not going to make it a unique thing. It'll be like, oh, now we're just this mass market thing. I guess we're not cool anymore. That sort of thing.
Right? Magic was never cool. That's kind of the point.
Well, if you try and make it cool, that's just going to make it worse.
Yes.
Like, nobody wants the Hello Fellow Kids set.
Ugh.
And then, as if it wasn't enough, they decided to do the same thing with Lord of the Rings. Because, I mean, Lord of the Rings had, like, a popular movie series a while back, right? Oh, but we don't have the license to that. But we can get the license to the book IP from, you know, the ungrateful remnants of Tolkien's family. Ever since Christopher Tolkien died, it's just been on the down slope. Very sharp down slope, which is why you've got things like Amazon's Lord of the Rings. But they decided that they needed this IP. So the whole purpose of this IP is to lure in people who know Lord of the Rings that aren't playing Magic the Gathering, right? And there's an overlap between people who like Lord of the Rings and who like Magic the Gathering. So it's not going to be as incompatible as Godzilla was or as Optimus Prime was.
Fortnite.
But
Oh, right. Yeah, there is Fortnite Magic the Gathering now, isn't there? Oh.
Then it wasn't enough to just cash on the IP. They went out of their way to make all the heroic characters black. And to make the Haradrim and the Southrons and that white. Because they live in Seattle. And everything